Welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where two bearded film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and talk about them. My name is Ben Errington, and I'm joined by co-host Mr.
Andy Conduit Turner. Hello, Ben. Hello,
Andy
everybody.
Conduit Turner, with a voice like a freshly whipped cream. I don't know where I was going with that. Do you think the bearded film fans bit is like, because I think at the start, me and Luke did have quite a lot of beard going on. I feel like mine's considerably shorter these days, and yours is only a smattering.
Yeah, only got a little.
Should we continue to have that as a key word in the intro, in the log line of the podcast?
I did notice that for when we have a guest that doesn't have a beard, you just say film fans.
Yeah, because I don't want to get into that scenario and make those crap jokes, where you go, sorry, I didn't realize you could grow a beard. And they go, oh, I've just had a shave. And you're like,
yeah, come on. Silly. We're not on what channel does shit jokes like that.
Dick and Dom. Actually,
they're very funny.
Dick and Dom, very funny, yeah. I'm sorry, Dick and Dom. I don't know why I immediately went for the jugular of Dick and Dom there.
Yeah, comedy masterclass over there. Like, either way, we're not on ITV3 here, guys. Come on.
Oh, I don't know. What's on ITV3?
Don't know.
Celebrity Juice.
Well, again, very successful in its time. Hasn't that ended now? Real life horror.
I think it's over, yeah. I think it's over. Real life horror. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. I tell you what, I've been watching a lot of films recently. My eyes aren't half tired.
Yeah, I know. I mean, as someone who's like, I watch quite a lot of films anyway, I would say. Most evenings, my first thought is what movie to find to watch rather than TV show. I'm much more a movie guy. And even considering that, this has been the last few weeks watching everything at FrightFest has been pretty intense, I'll admit.
And I think, Ben, we should take a moment to congratulate ourselves here. FrightFest is certainly the biggest of the UK horror genre film festivals that goes out there. Over 40 films, including shorts and everything, that are screening over the course of this long weekend. And you and I, from remotely in our various parts of the country, between us, have seen, 25 movies?
Well, 25 movies, including Lucy as well. So Lucy Buglass, who joined us last week as well. She actually physically attended the festival, whereas we merely watched from afar, not like in a weird peeping Tom way, but just in
legitimate press way.
In a legitimate press way. So I think between us and Lucy, she due to scheduling conflict, should we say that, couldn't join us for this part of the recording, but once me and Andy have discussed all the films we've seen, we're going to cut. That's by the magic of audio editing, which isn't that magic, really. It's pretty easy. By the magic of audio editing, it's just science. Lucy will turn up and talk about the film she watched as well. So yeah, I think between the three of us, we've covered probably about 25 films. And I think even if you attend the festival, to cover that many films would be quite an achievement in itself.
Ever so tired.
You'd be ever so tired. Your eyes would need to be opened up like in Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, you'd need some of that, or at least some little eye drops to really moisten them.
What film is it? I've just had a memory. I think it's a giallo film where there's like some sort of tape with little pins on them, just stuck under someone's eyes, so that if they close them in any way, the pins go like right into their eyes.
Oh, I've not seen that particular House of Horrors.
I think it might be a Dario Argento film, possibly. Anyway, that was a little memory unlocked there, thinking of that.
Yeah, tweet in, guys, if you know what that film is. I'd love to find out.
Yeah, Pins in the Eyes film. So yeah, we've watched a lot of horror.
Yeah. And I'm happy to say that it's not over yet anyway. We still have, there are a few screeners that, publishing and promotion companies are good enough to see us, but they expired before we got a chance to watch them because there's a lot to watch. I'm quite happy to say that if they get reactivated by anyone, if we pick up others in the aftermath of this, I'm happy to continue watching this because overall, good festival this year.
There's a possibility that we may still have. So obviously over the last couple of weeks, we've been putting out some bonus content, some bonus episodes with interviews with filmmakers whose films are premiering in some format at FrightFest. we've still possibly got a couple more that we may be able to put out. So obviously, this is the bonus episode. Sorry, this is the special episode covering FrightFest, but I don't think it will be the end of our coverage immediately. So yeah,
More to
we'll
come.
continue. We'll continue to pump it out. And yeah, the only other thing to say is we didn't see everything that premiered at the festival. There was some things that were like world premieres that, unless you were there, you couldn't see. Other things that we didn't get a chance to see. So not everything, but we will. Hopefully, in the episode, there will be time codes showing you exactly where in the episode we talk about certain movies. So if you only want to hear about particular films, which you may do, then you can skip ahead. But if you skip ahead, skip back. All right.
Yeah,
come on.
We're not going to dictate the chronology of how you listen to this episode, but do listen to it all if you can. We've watched a lot of movies to produce this.
Yeah, I know. It's been good. It's been good fun, and obviously we did FrightFest in Glasgow earlier this year, and we did that remotely as well. I'm happy to. Well, I'm confident. Sorry, should I say that we will be attending one of the FrightFest events next year in some format in person, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
As long as
We gotta get there.
As long as no like disease comes around that makes you stay housebound again, I very much intend to at very least go to Glasgow, because it is less than an hour from my house. I should be able to make it that far.
Because I had a bit of FOMO. I don't know about you. Andy.
Yeah,
a little bit of FOMO.
There's lovely pictures. I don't want to spoil Lucy's stories, but she looks like she had a great time.
Yeah, she had a great time, and obviously it just seems like all of the horror fam coming together, enjoying horror movies. A lot of really interesting people, and a lot of great, well-respected filmmakers and creatives from the horror genre as well involved. I think we got to get ourselves there. We got to get ourselves in front of the media wall, Andy.
Yeah, get ourselves there for some lovely pictures. Get nice matching outfits for us to wear as when we go. I do sometimes wonder
t-shirts.
about the wider horror community. Will they be delighted by, enraged at our sometimes irreverent takes on on some genre pieces? I know a lot of people like, you have to respect things. No, you don't. You can like things and not necessarily be deferential.
You can like things. You can think Congo is a horror movie. All opinions are supported.
I'm a really chill guy, Ben. You should know this by now. I'm not a fighty man. But if someone comes up to me and says that Congo isn't a horror film,
that's it.
Well, I'll be cool. I'll be cool about it until they walk away. Then I'll punch them in the back.
Oh God,
got him.
Got him. Absolutely, all's fair in love and punching people in the back. It would seem.
Yeah, and Congo.
Turner. All's fair in love and Congo. That was a far better line. Thank you for picking it up.
I'd offer them some sesame cake, and after they're taking a big bite of it, I'd be like, "Do you want to stop eating that?" You're really cross about it.
Fuming. Andy, are you wearing some sort of knitwear?
I am. I'm wearing a nice jumper.
A bit chilly in Scotland, is it?
Weather's on the turn up here. It's getting a little bit chilly.
It's still a warm day down here in the south of England. I've had enough. I've had a gutsful. It's it's almost September. In my eyes, September, the countdown to Halloween begins. Let's have a bit of chill in the air, please.
We're getting there up here. I'll send some down your way.
Please waft it towards me. Okay. Horror news. One of the things I wanted to talk about on horror news is involving a movie which premiered at FrightFest. It's one of the movies we didn't get to see, but there was officially a trailer and a theatrical release date for Terrifier 2, which was announced. Obviously, if you went to FrightFest and you did see Terrifier 2, lucky you. We hope you enjoyed it. It's coming out on October the 6th in theaters nationwide. And yeah, there's an official trailer which shows Art the Clown causing absolute chaos and the sheer ultra violence that goes alongside that. Apparently, it will erupt in theaters, which sounds dangerous, on October the 6th. So I don't know if that's the UK release. I guess we'll find out more, and it'd be interesting to find out if it's going to stream as well. Have you seen Terrifier?
I've not seen Terrifier. Have you seen Terrifier?
I've not seen Terrifier. No.
You know what we should probably do then, Ben? I think Terrifier, with a sequel coming up, and we were talking about our agenda for the coming months. So much great content coming along. So it might not be when it first comes out, but maybe shortly afterwards, Maybe a cheeky double
Double bill.
episode with someone who's good at extreme horror. If only we knew someone that fit that description and loved an extreme, ultra-violent movie,
Is
a previous guest.
I'm sure I know who you mean. Is Terrifier extreme horror, or is it?
I think it leans into the extreme, at least
Okay.
marketing-wise. It claims to be extreme. I mean, if we knew someone who was very into that genre, they would tell us where that falls
Yeah.
into that, or where they're absolute pretenders.
Absolute pretenders, and it wouldn't go anywhere near the extreme horror iceberg, which we obviously discussed with Zoe before. I'm assuming you're talking about Zoe, right? I'm not
I
gonna
am talking
make
about
an
Zoe.
assumption.
No.
On the same wavelength here, mate. Yeah, so obviously we have been making. I guess this is a horror news moment as well. We have been making plans for the next couple of months. It's usually we plan things a month ahead, but we've been chatting to a lot of interesting people and planning some special episodes, including. So next month we're going to be covering. So I think the first week of September we're going to be covering Signs, which celebrated its 20th anniversary recently. So and we've never covered an M. Night Shyamalan movie. I guess the only other one you would really cover would be Sixth Sense. Actually, The Visit as well.
Yeah.
Oh no, we covered Old. What am I on about?
Oh, the beach what makes you get old, of course.
We done a beach that makes you get old. I'm bloody feeling ancient on this beach. Go home then. So yeah, we're going to
black out.
Can exactly cover Signs, and then we're going to cover Silver Bullet, werewolf movie adaptation of the Cycle of the Werewolf book, Stephen King, and Janine Pipe, the author of Sausages: The Making of Dog Soldiers, will be joining us for that. Of course, we've got a chat, a werewolf movie with her. We're also going to be joined by Cult of VHS producer Aaron Truss, who obviously we did a bonus episode recently, and Video Store Kev, who features in Cult of VHS documentary as well. He's going to be joining us to discuss Night of the Creeps, which I've never seen.
No, me either.
You've never seen it?
I'm aware of it. Is Night of the Creeps the one that very heavily influences Sliver?
Yeah, I think so, because there's like slugs.
Yeah,
sluggies.
Yeah, I should say it properly. Slither, not Sliver, not that one where that man has like, that ones where has cameras in those hotel rooms and watches people knocking on. Not that
knocking
one.
Oh right,
Slither with a TH about slug monsters.
Bloody knocking on, mate. And then also we discussed this obviously previously when the Liams they joined us for. Wait, what did we discuss with the Liams?
The Burning. Old
Burning.
Old Cropsey.
Yeah, of course. I don't know where I went then. My head went somewhere completely different. Cropsey. Old Cropsey. Old Croppers. Roy Cropper. They're gonna be it's gonna be a quiz episode. We haven't done a quiz since last Christmas, New Year.
Time for a lovely quiz. Yeah, end of last year we best did one. So yeah, what a time. Obviously that makes sure that will that be Luke Conda forever time? Is that going to be his glorious return?
I reckon what's going to happen, right, is it's going to look like it's going to be me versus just those two, and I'm going to be all alone. But then suddenly, like Gandalf the White on a hillside, Luke will turn up. He'll have the same hair as Gandalf, and he'll come to my aid.
At the turn of the tide, that'll be when he comes in. Either that or like you'll be there. Your Zoom window will be there. The Liams will be like, "Oh, our scores combining to beat you," and then a VFX nightmare for you, Ben. A little portal is going to appear. It's going to be there. And you'll hear Luke Condor say on your left, and he's going to come out striding out there. And everyone watching will go and get all his questions wrong. Mad.
Hey! Standing up and clapping. And as I said, and then he'll get all his questions wrong. And then obviously, October, even though we're not locked in for this, but some things we could possibly cover in October include Hellraiser, new Hellraiser, that comes out. Yep. Halloween Ends.
That's almost certain, right?
That's almost certain. Yeah. And I think we've discussed a Halloween special is going to be Ghost Watch, with Mr. John Crinan joining us for that one. So loads and loads of stuff to look forward to. Loads of special guests. Oh wait, October as well. Sorry, I forgot. Alice Taylor Matthews will return to discuss Army of Darkness.
Because a bonanza.
Because she's introducing Evil Dead 2 at the Forbidden Worlds Festival, and hopefully we'll have an exclusive interview with the organizers of that as well in October. So What'd you say? What'd you say to that?
I say, what an embarrassment of riches our listeners are looking at over the coming couple of months. And that's only the scheduled stuff. We got some bonus stuff to catch up on. Now we're not up to our necks in interviews and so on, which I'm not going to complain about. They've been fantastic. Your interviews in particular, Ben. Chef's kiss. What?
Oh, I didn't kiss any chefs. I'll
Yeah.
have you know.
Oh.
That's good. I
You
mean,
could be fooled because you've obviously gained their talent for absolute masterpieces. Yeah.
been good fun. It's been great fun chatting to filmmakers. Obviously, Andy, you had a great interview as well with John Ainslie, the director of
Yeah,
one
and
of the movies we're going to discuss today. So
got some more of them coming. But yeah, it's going to be nice now. As we end our run of some interviews and so on, get back to some of those other bonus bits we were looking to do. Some more top tens, some more speculation. I tell you what, I'm springing this on you live, but with some of the foreign language movies we've done, I'd love to get together for a bonus to do a top 10, for a couple of bonuses where we do a top 10 horror movies in language X. So, we do a Japanese language horror film, we do a French language, we do a Spanish language, because there's been so many great foreign language movies that I think we're getting exposed to more by doing events like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. I'm going to spring something else on you. You spring something on me. I'll spring something right back on you. I know we discussed potentially, and we never got around to it, so I do apologize to our listeners if you felt excited by this. We did talk about doing a Resident Evil TV show bonus episode.
Yes.
Have you heard the news?
Oh, back into horror news. Smooth segue there, Ben. But I have heard the news
Then I've
that
been bloody
cancelled, and I know that it's driven a lot of those conversations about the Netflix model and how it works, right?
Yeah.
Because I saw one of the creators on Netflix who had a series. Apologies, I didn't take note of the name or the associated series. Now saying if you want to support something, please put it on and let it run all the way through in the first week of it being done.
Yeah.
And what a backwards way of looking at a series success, right?
Yeah.
The idea of how its success is judged by how fast people binge it and smash it in a day.
Yeah, and then I think didn't somebody comment? Was it Neil Gaiman made a comment this week as well? I think we're discussing. I think an extra Sandman episode got put out, and then I think somebody made a comment saying, "Well, add-on features, is it? Oh, I haven't even made my way through the first series," and I think he was like, "You've all been left behind." Like, so you can't watch things at your own pace for fear of getting left behind. And I mean, I can't do that because there's just so much stuff out there. When new things drop, I can't just go, I have to dedicate 8 hours.
I feel like I've said this for the last 3 or 4 weeks, Ben. It's fast becoming my catchphrase. Like, content is infinite. Like, my free time isn't. Like, I can't, we produce a weekly podcast where it's in our interest to keep up with things that are coming out and watch them. And even then, it's not possible to see all the things that come out. Like, it's really depressing to see things cancelled when you might have really enjoyed them, but like you can't just drop everything. I know Resident Evil in particular had a drop off because it had a mixed fan reaction. But it's very strange that things don't really get time to get to their audience or for people to really absorb them, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't bring myself to continue watching it. I don't know what it was. When something just doesn't grab you, and then like the fault of trying to go and watch even more of it, even though it's like a property that I'm a huge fan of, and I was quite excited to see various Easter eggs and inclusions and stuff. I just don't know. It just didn't grab me enough that the thought of watching it again, I felt like a chore. When you're a bit like, oh, I've got to watch this. And it's not just Resident Evil. There have been plenty of things. There have been a couple of the Marvel shows, which I felt a bit like that with, like going back. Oh, I want to complete it. I want to be a completionist and watch all of this, and I kind of feel like I can't. Like it's a big commitment. I think they did announce like some potential plans for season 2. They had as like a little bonus for fans, didn't they? Did you see that?
Oh, I've not seen that. Like, I'll read them at some point and see what they were going to do with it.
They were so weird that I thought it was like a parody. I thought somebody had like gone, well, you're gutted about Resident Evil getting cancelled, are you? Here's what you could have won. And it was like some mad shit. Like a tyrant rips a zombie elephant in half. And it was like a giant King Kong sized mandrill takes San Francisco. And I was like, oh yeah. And I looked and it was like, oh no, these are apparently all real plans. Like some effects supervisor or something came out of it.
Now I am disappointed that hasn't been made. Like that, for all the things that people didn't enjoy about this, like still, like for some reason I don't know what the deal is. I occasionally get a drip feed of when I tweeted about how I had enjoyed the series, and a guy replied, went, "No, you didn't enjoy it. What do you watch?" And I was like, oh, okay, like yeah, like I still get an occasional person that likes him. Yeah, you're wrong for liking that thing. Like it's fine, like what you want. But yeah, it's a shame that I can see why it didn't resonate with everyone. I think the writing was of a time. I think I will still stand up to defend the book because them teenagers are annoying and they make silly decisions. That's what teenagers do. Teenagers are quite annoying and they make stupid decisions. Like, but I liked about the Resident Evil series that they went to do something different, because say what you like about the direction they took on it, you've also seen in very recent history what happens when you try to just lift and shift it fairly hard and don't give it its own space or its own flavor.
I watched, I'll get into the movie I watched and what we've been watching, which is up next, but I watched Beast with Idris Elba, and he's got 2 teenage daughters in, and it almost felt like a much more believable dynamic of like a father and 2 very different and potentially difficult in their own ways teenage daughters. And because it takes place in Africa, there was a moment when they go into like an abandoned African village, and I was like, if this turned out to be Resident Evil 5, I would be on board.
You'd be on board. Idris, the new Chris Redfield, punching on.
Yeah, and having like his teenage daughters a bit. I don't know. And it was and unfortunately for me, it was something where the Resident Evil TV show, I never quite got that feeling. You know, when you get a feeling where you're like, I'm excited to see where this goes, and I'm looking forward to this. It always felt like I was too already anticipating not liking it. And you know, sure, that's probably my fault, my problem. But I think that's why I only made 3 episodes, because I don't know.
Well, Ben, me and your mom both enjoyed it very much. Separately, we haven't watched it together or discussed it, but I know she's a big fan.
She loved it, and she loved Welcome to Raccoon City. Well, I don't know if she loved, but she said of both was good, and she was surprised I didn't like it. Kind of made me feel a bit guilty, where she was almost trying to like shame me into be like, I thought you liked Resident Evil. That's a fan.
That's one of those things as well, though. Like I think with some things, it's strange. Things resonate with different people. Like my mom has no interest in following a lot of the superhero stuff or the Marvel stuff that I quite enjoy. Big fan though. I know she watches quite a lot of the CW stuff, which I've never engaged with at all. Like she watches, she's watched The Flash. Like she's a couple of seasons into that. She was really into Gotham when that was on, and I was just like, nah. But my mum really enjoyed it, and she's like, "Oh, you like this stuff? Don't you like a bit of Batman?" And I go, "Yeah, I do, but I just didn't even think to try that." You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
There we go. Tastes are different. And the other piece of news before we move on to what we've been watching is Mr. Harrigan's Phone, a Netflix adaptation of the Stephen King book. There have been book? No, short story, isn't it? Anyway,
it'll be available in book form.
It'll be available in book form, and so whether it's a short book or a long book, one of them long books.
That's how big the print is. Make writing small enough, any book could be a short book.
The first image has I think it's from that If It Bleeds short stories collection. Okay. So first images from that. It's got a kid from, what's his name, Jaden Martell, who's a kid who was in It. Donald Sutherland is in it, as a reclusive billionaire. But then Mr. Harrigan sadly passes away. Craig discovers not everything is dead and gone, and strangely finds himself able to communicate with his friend through from beyond the grave through his iPhone. Ghost iPhone.
Mr. Harrington's iPhone.
Mr. Harrigan.
Harrigan.
I'm like, why is this kid best friends with an old fella? Hey?
Must be a cool old fella. They've got an iPhone. A cool dude.
Yeah, that's true. I'll let him off, actually. What a cool.
I guess it
great
depends
guy.
what number it is. If he's got like an original one, he's got an iPod Touch.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's it for horror news. Apart from, I guess we're going to what we've been watching. I'm assuming not much other than FrightFest movies.
One thing that I have watched outside FrightFest, but Ben, there's one thing we won't have to dwell on it long. It's only horror adjacent based on some of the content. Dropped hot and fresh, I think, today. That Cyberpunk trailer for the animated series on Netflix. Yes. That does look a bit tasty, doesn't it? Looks frantic. Yeah. Looks like absolute madness.
Frantic. In the description, not safe for work. And I'm like, play.
All right. I work from home, so
I work from home. You can't control me.
There you go.
Yeah, that looks very special,
doesn't it? Just.
Was there anything that you've seen apart from?
So yeah, apart from a wealth of FrightFest content, I'm only going to touch on these pieces briefly. The Mummy, the Tom Cruise one that I've never seen before. It came up because I accidentally, while I was putting Netflix on to look for something that we might watch, I fudged the button press and pressed surprise me, and that's what came up. And once it started, we thought, yeah, go on.
Is there a button that says surprise me?
Yeah, surprise me. They just plays something that's based on.
It just plays it. Don't even go.
Well, it comes up and says, "Hey, this is a 15. All right with you?" I was like, "That's fine. Please proceed."
Looked around.
Yeah, no 14-year-olds in it. Absolutely not. So we're good to go. So we just let it go, and it was Tom Cruise's The Mummy. We thought, you know what? Let's give it a go. Like, I know it got a bad rap because of all the Dark Universe stuff and everything like that, and it's not. It's no Brendan Fraser and co's The Mummy, but it's all right. Ain't that bad.
What about Russell Crowe?
I liked it when he turns to cheeky old Mr. Hyde. He turns from being, I'm Dr. Jekyll to, it's me, Mr. fucking Hyde.
Oh my, don't you mug me off.
Give you, you know what I call Mr. Hyde for? Give you a right damn good hiding. Yes, that's what I do. And he thumps him, wazzes him around the room a little bit.
Honestly, I really don't remember much about it apart from that.
Oh, it is huge cinematic universe bait throughout.
Yeah,
it is a Dracula skull. It is a Gilman hand, and here's a werewolf face. Yeah,
but I mean, it's pretty annoying. Isn't it?
But it's all right. There's some decent action in it, and the mummy's good. But yeah, but nice. That was good. So I watched that. Much like you get in ancient Egypt, I went and saw a serpent at the local museum and gallery this week. I went to see an exhibition called The Serpent of Capitalism, which in today's world, real life horrors, Ben, was quite an interesting little viewing of like both the sculpture of the titular Serpent of Capitalism itself, and then lots of like, quite stark images of the things that the system works, lots of messaging about it, which I, found a really interesting watch. If you're in the Scotland area, I believe it's touring other museums right now. It's in the Perth Gallery and Museum in these times of trying cost of living challenges and so on. An interesting watch, a little bit of arts and culture for you here. But then, segueing neatly on, the greatest horror of all, Ben, that we talked about last week, of course, the horror of what the Serpent of Capitalism drives a lot of people to, bloody homelessness. And I'm off this very Sunday, mate, is the day.
What a segue.
I've got to get myself on my bicycle. I'm going to go to start in Glasgow. I'm going to ride my bike to Edinburgh with some friends, including my wife, who is also my friend. We're riding.
Is she listening? Is she listening?
Miles. My wife doesn't listen to this.
Say what you want. Say what you want.
She is my friend. That's on the record. Yeah, 60 miles. It's going to be hard. My legs will be ever so tired, but we are raising money to help people not be homeless by a company called Social Bite that are working to build people houses and give them secure employment and a safe place to live and eat and so on as well, which I do actually care about. I'm usually very silly here, but I do care about that. So I'm willing to make my legs dead tired by riding 60 miles to support it. And you want to sponsor me to do that, throw some shekels, not my way, to the way direct to the charity, then you can do that. Famous cyclist Chris Hoy is going to be with me cycling. I assume he's probably going to be a bit quicker than I am. Yeah, he's going to be there. We're going to start together at the start line.
I reckon
he's going to finish a bit sooner.
Try and race him.
Yeah, let his tires know. That's bad
let
spirit.
His tires down. Give him the eyes at the starting line.
See you at the finish, Chris. Eat my dust, mate. I won't say that because I would very quickly be eating his dust, I imagine.
Are you feeling prepared?
Yes, all right. Like I feel like I'm going to be tired, but I'm breaking it down. I'm not trying to think of it as a 60-mile bike ride. I'm trying to think of it as 3 20-mile bike rides.
Yeah. That probably is a good way of doing it.
Because there's a little break every 20 miles. Yeah.
Oh, is there? Okay.
Yeah, there's a little break where you can go and get. It's a fuel station. I mean, it's probably not going to be the same fuel as we had on our training rides. Our friend came up a few weeks ago and we had a lovely ride out to a lovely little village. It was about 25 miles to get out there. Sat and had a cocktail and a spaghetti carbonara before I rode back. It was lovely.
Jesus.
Yeah.
You don't feel a little bit.
No, it's not like running where you eat slightly if you eat the slightly wrong thing, then it's like I wish I was dead the second you start running again. Bike's not so rough, but I'm not sure they're going to have spaghetti carbonara and cosmopolitans at the fueling station. Probably have bottled water.
You never know.
Protein bar.
Options open. There we go. So yeah, we will put as we did last week, we'll put the link to that sponsorship. Is that the right word?
Yeah, come and no pressure. Put that in the show notes. Just your positive thoughts. If you're listening to this on a Sunday, just send me some energy metaphorically as well. That'll probably help.
Yeah, howl. Open your back door or window or whatever, and howl into the night.
I'll hear it.
No, it'll be the day. Howl into the day. Andy will hear it, and it'll give him a second wind. You might need a third wind.
Yeah, it'll sustain me. So yeah, send those out there. But other than that, Ben, I don't know if you've been watching anything else or if it's just been an endless string of FrightFest.
Mainly an endless string of FrightFest content. However, I've been to the cinema twice in the last 7 days.
Snuck those in.
Yeah, snuck those in. So once to see Bullet Train, directed by David Lech, maybe Leach. Don't want to call him a Lech. That seems a bit unfounded. And you know what? Bullet Train was a good time. It is probably the most muddled film in terms of plot and characters like ever. It's just like what, who, why? There's way too many moving parts. But I think when it gets going and the action's good, and despite there being too many characters, all the characters are good, and the action is pretty decent. Maybe the final third is a bit too come on now, wrap it up. But still, it was a good time. And is it Aaron Taylor Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry as
two triple namers
as characters called Tangerine and Lemon, or Lemon and Tangerine if you want to name them in that order. A delight. Really, really good.
Okay. I really want to see this. I really want to see this movie. The only thing that this is going to sound like horrible criticism, but watching the trailers, it had the big energy of a film that Netflix have just spent a fortune on, and it's going to come out on Netflix. But it's at the cinema, which is great.
Definitely. Yeah, but still, watchable. That's a good way to describe it. And Brad Pitt feels like, out of everyone involved, Brad Pitt feels like he's kind of just there. You know what I mean? Like everyone else has kind of got so much to do, and of course Brad Pitt's got lots to do as well. But it feels like he's kind of just there. Still, that was enjoyable. And I also watched Beast, which I think we mentioned on this podcast about
just Idris a minute ago. Yeah,
Idris Elba. Oh yeah, just a minute ago. But I think we mentioned it. When there was a trailer a
few weeks ago with old Sharlto Copley when the trailer came out.
Sharlto Copley, yeah. So it's Idris Elba versus a lion in a grudge match where he's got 2 teenage daughters to take care of as well. You know what? Really, really good. It's shot really well, which I think kind of helped It had this. It felt like the camera work was kind of like right there with the characters, and I felt like there was a lot of really long shots as well. I don't know if there are any hidden cuts or whatever, but it just had something to it which made it feel. And there's a couple of animal attack scenes which give like the Revenant a run for its money.
Okay. Yeah,
Where you're
give
just
that a
like,
go as well.
where you're like this. Oh, oh God, no. Yeah, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think Idris is obviously a great leading man, and the supporting cast, and 90 minutes of lion attack action with like a gnarly, and there's some proper like fist pump moments as well.
Yes.
We just like,
right,
which is great. So I enjoyed it. I went in with pretty much no expectations, so I was pretty glad.
Would you rather, Ben, like what would be your? We've seen a few animal attack films recently. Very quickly, situation you'd least like to be in the situation of A, stuck in Africa with a bad lion and your 2 teenage daughters and your wife's dead. B, stuck in a house when there's a hurricane outside and a tiger inside and your autistic little brother to have to look after.
Oh God, yeah.
C, stuck in a professor's house with horrible Link, the crazy chimpanzee who's actually an orangutan spray painted and with fake ears.
Well, there's less with Link. I don't have to worry about anyone else. It's not a escort mission.
What about those dogs? Oh, you haven't got to worry about looking after anyone else.
Yeah, I've got
no
to
more
worry about
dangers.
looking after anyone else. I've only got to think about myself. Think about number one. So I reckon Link, even though a monkey attack is pretty scary, I feel like when a lion gets you, when a lion's on top of you, you're done for, or tiger. So
and Link as well, you can trick him because that intelligence meanie is more susceptible to tricks. You can literally gaslight him. That's what she does.
Yeah,
she gets him in the end.
He will watch you have a bath though, which is or shower. Can't remember which one.
Bloody Link.
But bloody hell, Link. Yes, that's what.
So that's what you'd pick. Yeah. But other than that, though,
what about you? Are you agreeing with me on that?
I don't know. Yeah, probably. I think the absence of those other people to look after makes Link probably the best option.
Okay. You may have skipped ahead if you're looking at the show notes to see when we start talking about FrightFest. It's now. Yeah, lots of films to cover. So I think what we're going to do is we're not going to go into details in terms of plots. We're probably not going to spoil anything. We're not going to rate things in our usual rating system either, because I don't think that's it's probably not particularly fair to do that. So we're not. But we're going to give our thoughts based on the films we've seen. As I said, me and Andy will talk about the films we've watched, and then at some point, once we're done, we'll bring Lucy in as well.
Do a little screen write to Lucy.
Yeah, we'll just go over to Lucy in the studio. And she's down on the at ground level.
She is
getting in amongst it, going
proper
to the
like outside broadcast.
I want to find. I'm gonna have some questions about what the actual fest is like as well with her. But yeah, so FrightFest that took place the weekend just past, so the 25th to the 29th. So what was it, Thursday to Monday? Leicester Square, and yeah, loads and loads of genre movies. Obviously, pretty much exclusively horror, but I would say some suspense, some thriller, horror adjacent sort of stuff as well. Seems to be. So FrightFest is the UK's largest and brightest international thriller, fantasy and horror film festival. And obviously we covered FrightFest Glasgow, the sister festival, I guess. We covered that in, I think it was March.
March, I think it was FrightFest.
Yeah, so obviously we were lucky enough to speak to some of the filmmakers for previous bonus episodes, and we watched a load of stuff as well. So I guess we will just crack on talking about the movies that we covered.
You're gonna go through the program, right, and pull the ones that we've seen.
Yeah, so we're gonna go through the program. So essentially we're going through the program in order of when the films were screened. So earlier in the episode will be the ones that screened like Thursday, Friday, and then later on. So the first one I've got down here is a movie called Final Cut.
I saw Final Cut.
Oh yeah, here's another thing. Because there's so many movies that were shown, most of them only one of us has seen. There are a few where both of us have seen, and there's even one where I think all three of us have seen it. including Lucy as well. But for the most part, because we had a lot to watch, we decided to what you should never do in a horror movie, which is split up, take your own route, try and find your own way. And that's what we did. So again, interesting to hear about films. Hopefully some of the films you saw are going to make me want to go and see them. So Final Cut is directed by Michael Hazanavicius. I hope I got that right. It's French, and it had its UK premiere. So let's have a little bit of so it's a gore. All the gory tricks of a Z movie trade needed to get on screen for the first time. Silly, excessive, cheery meta zombie movie. There's a feel good, over the top riot. I guess that's not much of a synopsis, but maybe you can tell us a little bit more.
I can tell you a little bit more. Ben, I can give you a very direct comparison. This is a French remake of One Cut of the Dead, the Japanese film.
Is it?
Yeah,
straight up.
You know what? I've still not got around to watching One Cut of the Dead, despite really strong recommendations to see it. I was hoping to see it before we came and talked today, but content is infinite. Yeah. So this French version of it is actually the first version of this that I've actually seen.
Okay.
And you know, I think you've already covered the premise of it in the One Cut of the Dead episode. The fact that it is got a lot of meta narrative to it, that it is there is a at the face of it a zombie movie, but then it's about the making of that zombie movie in the background as well, right? And how it goes onto screen. In this film, this version of it, it can't be a direct lift, I don't think, because in addition to that, they have the angle that it is a French remake of a Japanese movie.
Okay.
So they have other scenes that are there with them meeting the IP owners, the Japanese film makers, and the people who own the copyright of the original story that they're trying to satisfy with their remake of it as well. I'm not sure how overtly the Japanese original goes into comedy. I found it really funny. It was really good.
Yeah, the Japanese film is pretty heavy on the comedy.
Yeah.
And even just looking at it now, it looks like the characters are like dressed the same.
Yeah, they're dressed the same, and additionally, as part of the gag behind it, when they're talking about acquiring the rights and everything, the original IP owners don't let them change any of the character names. So all of these French actors have Japanese names when they're in the movie. It's really funny. It's really cleverly put together. It's really given me that extra kick. I need to hurry up and watch the original as well. So I can't comment on how they stack up next to each other, but it was delightful to watch. It was really funny.
Me and Luke covered One Cut of the Dead, episode 86 of Horror Hangout. So
so long ago.
So if you want to go back and check that out, I mean, obviously I can't say either way because I've not seen Final Cut, but One Cut of the Dead was a really nice surprise as far as I remember. I think initially I was a bit like not entirely sold on the concept, but then at some point it like locked in. So I'm assuming if it's the same sort of thing, then I can imagine why.
Yeah, the same. I think the first few seconds I didn't know that it was it, and I was like, okay, what am I in for here? And then very quickly you get the kind of premise and what they're creating here, and it really kind of finds its own way. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, there we go. So that is a movie called Final Cut. What's it called in French? Coupe.
Coupe.
Which I'm assuming is what people say when they yell cut. Yeah, okay. So that is that. Next up is a movie called Midnight Peepshow, which I believe you also have seen. I didn't watch this one.
I have also seen.
So some sort of anthology, because there's like loads of directors listed here.
Yes, it's an anthology piece.
Anthology piece. So directors include Jake West, Errol, Anthony Hales, Andy Edwards, Ludovica Musumeci. A British film, looks like.
Yes.
A madam owns a Soho peep show with a difference. The sites on offer are tailor-made to its customers' deepest sinful fears. Yeah, so I'm assuming what people go to a peep show and then each each thing they see is
yeah, it's around that premise. It's a particular man that goes to the peep show, and things that he has been maybe unwittingly connected to that fit into a bigger story. For the peep show part, think of VHS film where there's a narrative that's part of that then will lead you to see these other flashbacks or these recollections of these other kind of short horror setups. The horror setups are all based on or all kind of linked to again, this whole thing, we talk about these fantasies that people drive into. There is a secret organization there that is kind of helping people live out these like these deepest, darkest fantasies they have. It's always a price to it though, Ben. It's a real wishmaster situation. That there's unforeseen consequences or things don't go how these people foresee it. Like all anthology films, I think it's one where different pieces of it will resonate with different viewers more than others. In the final piece, I think there are some really crazy gore effects, and it really gets down kind of that 8mm like whole of the depravity and the depth of this organization that's together. I think my favorite section of all of them, and
sorry, I'm really sorry. I just read a comment. I thought one good thing that might be good to bring up is I've got some reviews, some choice reviews, which I might bring up for each movie. And I just read one, just made me laugh. I apologize. I'm sorry that I just.
It's all right.
Then.
Anticipation. I'll say very quickly before we get into this because I now want to hear this desperately. Of all of the sections, I think maybe the second one was my overall favorite, and that's not to say the others are bad. Not guilty by omission here, but I think my favorite was probably the Andy Edwards section in the middle, which is called Fuck, Marry, Kill. Big Saw energy, probably more successful in Spiral than and then delivering that kind of
nice, okay,
outcome as well. So yeah, it's an interesting, fun little bit, very, very British in its tone as well. Yeah, what's this comment you got?
Well, based on that, one of the comments is Andy Edwards' Fuck, Marry, Kill is a gleeful highlight in this otherwise slightly mixed anthology movie. Somebody else says sexual fantasies for/from people who have never had any sexual fantasies. And then the comment that made me laugh was, need me a strangle wank so I can forget this misogynistic bullshit. I'm afraid it was the strangle wank bit that made me laugh. And
yeah,
I apologize.
A strangle wank does come up in this film. Spoilers for people
strangle wank does.
People who are triggered in positive or negative ways by strangle wanks. There is at least one that does feature quite viscerally in this film.
Okay. I'm just imagining what you were doing with your day when that bit was playing. Making a bit of toast.
Yeah, I had the laptop on the kitchen counter while I was having to go at the dishes because I got a lot of content to cover. All right, strangle wank on in the side.
Yeah,
there.
What are you watching? Just strangle wank the movie, and you know what? I'm loving it.
Yeah, I agree that was I think that was probably the highlight of that section. Yeah, there's thematically things to unpack on that one. I don't think the take of it being perceived as misogynistic from some perspectives is probably true, but there's some other angles to it as well. I think it's an interesting anthology.
Because sometimes the content of a film being something like misogynistic is like maybe that's the point. Maybe because we're the point of view of a character or the point of view of an unreliable narrator, for example, that we're not supposed to look at it and go, I'm going to do some of that.
Yeah, there's I think there's definitely some angles that, and it talks about who dominates those areas of bringing up those fantasies and so on in the first place. Yeah, interesting little anthology horror piece that's all about people's sexual fantasies effectively.
Here's another bit we could do. So maybe at the end of when we discuss the film, we could say recommended for fans of.
Okay, I would say recommended for fans of. Look at a Saw. Look at maybe a Hostel or something like that as well. Saw, Hostel, that kind of genre of film. You would get on with this. As we've established this now, very organic planning and growing we're seeing in our content today. Shuna's putting the show together as we go. Excellent work. But
Excellent word.
let's lean back and do the final cut as well. I think you will enjoy this if you like. Certainly, One Cut of the Dead would be a great recommendation of that one. Other than that, I'd be tempted to say look at some of your comedy horrors, like really mainstream, digestible, Shaun of the Dead and so on, but don't expect that level of polish or really accessible, straight up humor. I think there's some more subtlety to it than that necessarily. But yeah, if you want some comedy mixed in there, then that's your angle to look at on that one.
Lovely. Nice. Okay, so next up is something I saw, which is Dario Argento's Dark Glasses.
Ooh.
How dark are these glasses that he's wearing? How dark are they?
The darkest.
The darkest glasses. So starring Elenia Pastorelli, Asia Argento, and plenty of other people. So it's Italian Giallo, obviously from the master of Italian Giallo, Dario Argento. Its UK premiere happened at FrightFest. In Rome, a serial killer has garroted 3 high-class sex worker girls with cello strings. An upmarket escort, Diana, is next on the list. So yeah, basically the interesting wait, I'm describing that wrong. The interesting event, is that right?
Inciting event.
Inciting event that happens is Diana suffers a car accident, leaves her blind, and that car accident kills the family of this young Chinese boy. And essentially the story is about this killer stalking her while she is almost like a buddy cop scenario happening with this little boy. It's pretty stylish. It kind of made me didn't feel, with the classic Argento movies kind of feel a certain way, and they're sort of bathed in all the different lights, and it's got that giallo feel. I guess like that was kind of completely missing, but the central relationship between this woman and the kid, even though she kind of effectively kidnaps the kid. I mean, again, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna spoil it, but it was just one of those plots where it felt like we're going to add a serial killer into this just because it's a Dario Argento film and he's the master of giallo. It could have easily had a different sinister turn without there really needing to be a serial killer. But still, I enjoyed it. It was incredibly watchable. I can't remember the last Dario Argento film I saw, like in terms of what was the last one he released.
Should we pull it up even and find out? I'm really poorly aware of his.
It's not Dracula 3D, is it? I keep forgetting that he directed a movie called Giallo from 2009, like an American version of a Giallo movie starring Adrian Brody.
That's mad, isn't it?
That's pretty mad. I've never seen it.
So he is the director of. Let's have a look there. So Suspiria, Deep Red,
all the classics. Suspiria, Deep Red, Inferno, Phenomena, Tenebrae, Opera. I guess is still one of his classics. I think maybe Dracula was one of his latest ones, because I think that was 2012. He did like a Dracula 3D with Rutger Hauer in it. So I guess that was the last one. I guess for this, I would say I recommend it for fans of any of Dario Argento's movies. Don't expect it to be anywhere near as thematically and visually close to that. I would have liked to have seen it on a big screen, because I feel like of all the movies that premiered, an Argento film on a big screen would have felt like an event as such, wouldn't it?
Yeah, huge.
But there's blood. There's almost like a bit of buddy comedy going on in places as well. And it's a bit grotty and grimy, and there's something a little bit nasty about it. But also, car accident. How are you going to go blind? Apparently it dislodged a muscle or something in her eye. I was a bit like, how does this happen then? Nothing's gone through her eyeball.
Yeah, or maybe if like you were mucking about and pretending your seatbelt was a blindfold just as you like crashed. Friction burns on your eyes, seal them shut.
Oh, yeah. But there's a little bit of an interesting subplot to this is her coming to terms of being blind. It's not like she just wakes up one day, oh, I'm blind, I guess this is it now. It's like her coming to terms with being blind, getting a guide dog, kind of like learning all the different things about, you know, in your house, knowing where everything is, and all different ways that you could. So it seemed to like there was a bit of care and attention to this character's arc in terms of she suddenly finds herself blind. It's not like she's just going about her day like normal. Like everything
Adjust
has
into
essentially
life.
changed. Yeah, and like imagine you're blind, but also serial killers after you. Can you imagine that?
That'd make that is a real hurricane outside, tiger inside situation.
Exactly. Yeah.
One of them's bad enough.
One of them's bad enough. But in terms of choice reviews, a couple of people, Argento still got it. Someone says it's stylish, but not really my bag. Central relationship between the woman and the kid is hilariously inappropriate. I guess it kind of is because she just kind of goes into a children's home and says, "You're coming with me."
I'm taking this kid. He's helping me solve a murder.
He's helping me solve a murder. I killed his family accidentally. It wasn't my fault.
I think my favorite review from Dark Glasses is from Itchy the Killer himself, who says, absolutely fucking nonsensical, but the soundtrack goes buns, 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 buns. It says buns a lot of times.
It's very like electronic soundtrack.
And Itchy gave it 2 stars there. But you know, fair comment, but Itchy the Killer, wind your neck in, mate. Calling other films nonsensical. Come on.
Yeah, come on, Itchy. What are you doing? Itchy the Killer isn't even the character on the poster. Did you know that?
Yeah, it's the other man.
It's the other man. What's Itchy the Killer doing on the poster? Confusing.
Knitting needles in the ears guy, that is.
Knitting needles in the ears guy. Okay, so that's Dark Glasses. And I guess we continue in a pretty high level at this stage. Is a movie called Piggy, which both of us have seen. And obviously whoa, couldn't believe it. Did you have that on your bingo card? And obviously I did an interview on a recent bonus episode with Carlota Pereda, and she attended the UK premiere of the movie. It also showed at Sundance this year. So it's a Spanish language, I guess, like horror, thriller, coming of age drama. And basically it's about an overweight girl, Sarah, who is deals with loads of mockery, judgment, and abuse from the cool girls. But today is different because bloke turns up, right?
Mm-hmm.
He arrives in the village and he kidnaps her tormentors. And there's this like weird sort of like will she or won't she? Will she help the kids? Will she help the killer? What's going on in her brain? There's this like this moral question, I guess, that's happening throughout. And in terms of horror, like it addresses a hell of a lot of different things. It addresses body image. It addresses obviously bullying. It addresses violence and anger from different genders as well. You know, like how some things can be considered from each side of it. And I found it really quite compelling. You know, it went into some interesting places. And you know, I spoke about this with the director, but you know, when the horror from a film like a Stephen King movie, Stephen King book / adaptation into a movie, the stuff that really like makes your stomach turn over is like the bullying scenes, like when the kids are gonna carve their name into Ben's stomach. You know, like those are the scenes that really make you, you know, when Pennywise turns out, we're like, yeah, all right, mate, stop dancing.
We've all seen Horrible Clown.
We've all seen Horrible Clown, but that's the stuff that really sort of, and to see that happen, and then to introduce like a killer character into it, where you're like, yeah, kill those bloody bullies, but then you know, in real life,
yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. No.
Would you do that? I mean, you probably wouldn't, and would you want someone to do it? So it is a coming of age story, but and another thing, the fact that it takes place in sort of a very small Spanish village, this kind of sun-bleached, mostly in daylight scenario, felt very Texas Chainsaw as well. And there's like some mob mentality stuff as well happening. You know, you see how parents react to different things, how neighbors react to different things.
Yeah, and it's got like this whole community side to it that we probably haven't seen the like since Fire in the Sky, where there's a lot of that community and how the relationships twist and turn in the wake of a tragedy or an unseen event, right?
Mm.
Yeah. And I think I heard it in your discussion with Carlota as well, like lots of comedic elements and beats put in there as well. It's got a very European sense of like one of those escalating dramas when more and more things go wrong at a point as well. I can imagine like like what's the scene with is it Ben Miller when he's meeting his wife's parents and then these things continue to go wrong and so on. It's got that feeling as well, how she engages herself with, right, I'm gonna go and try and maybe go back to the scene and then, oh no, now this has happened and I'm more
Yeah.
implicated in this now. I've already said that I wasn't there, and it slowly goes out of control
Mm.
for her. Really, really dug the performances in this film. I thought it was incredibly well acted by the lead. I'm afraid I don't have her name in front of me.
Laura Galan, I
Yeah,
believe, the lead. So
yeah.
this was adapted from a short film, and she was in that as well, called
Yeah,
Piggy.
I think really, really, really solid performances. A really good, as you say, like almost a moral dilemma that's being put in front of them. What is that character going to do? Is she doing the right thing? And for anyone who's ever experienced things like that stomach turning of the bullying thing, probably if you are in a situation like that, would you be inclined to do something that it's the Batman Begins conundrum, Ben? You're not going to kill them, but you haven't got to stop them from dying.
Yeah, it is the
That's good,
Batman.
and Sarah would be very well. So it's good enough for Batman, good enough for me.
Yeah. Did you kill these people? No, I just didn't save them. You what? What? Show me in the bloody law where that's not
So
allowed.
that
Eh?
says you must save someone. I'm not one of them Asimov robots, third rule of robotics. I didn't have to do that. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I can leave them to it. And I really like the dynamic with her family as well. Like her
Mm.
mom in particular, this really strained relationship she has with her. Um, yeah, I enjoyed this one. What would we recommend it for people who are fans of?
There's also like sorry, we will get to that. I was also going to say there's a really interesting sort of like maybe like a romantic
Mm,
thing going on between Sarah and the killer, but it's almost like a will they won't they sort of thing. And you're like, are they going to go full natural born killers and be like,
it's
I
the
mean,
Daphne and
again,
Niles of a generation.
exactly. Are they going to do that, or is it going to go a completely different way? In terms of films, I would recommend. I mean, just some choice reviews here as well. Someone says, I wanted Sarah to go on a killing spree. And to be fair, part of me was thinking, is this the way it's going to go? Kind of glad it didn't go that way. I know, of course, there's a minor spoiler, but I don't know. I just don't think it necessarily needed it as such. Like, I know that certain things happen, sure, and some things are is it a crime? Is it not?
Mm.
But still, I'm kind of glad it didn't go that way. Someone else says Piggy is exactly the kind of emotionally and physically brutal film Fright Fest was built for. Uh,
Yeah, fair. I
yeah.
I see a I see a 4-star review here. Um, Fat Girl slash High Tension collide in one of the best films of the year. Incredible lead performance that goes all in. She does. She
Hmm.
acts the shit out of this movie. Another 3.5-star review. Oink oink, motherfuckers.
Oink oink, motherfuckers. Yeah, and I mean, like her body type and her size is like it's something which is like she's tormented for throughout, but it's almost like something that eventually she kind of wears as like a badge of honor,
Yeah,
or like owns that body type. And it's weird, despite the fact that it's like a film about killing people in a small town, it's like a body positivity film, I guess, in a way, with a lot of interesting messages to take away from it. Films I'd recommend if you like it. As I said, Texas Chainsaw. It kind of got me
mm-hmm.
feeling like that. And again, Leatherface, perhaps a misunderstood Misunderstood guy.
Just wanted to live in that old lady's house.
Just want to live in that old
Those
lady's house. Yeah.
bloody those bloody millennials came and didn't do the paperwork properly.
Yeah. What else? What else though? I guess what else would kind of feel like this? Um, Wolf Creek potentially. I'm just thinking about
Yeah.
films that take place in hot in hot countries.
Wolf Creek, perhaps, not the opposite in a cold country. Take the supernatural elements out of Let the Right One In, and like look at that relationship, like a dangerous character that has a relationship
Yeah,
with
that's a good
our
point. That's a
like
good point.
classic victim and the bullying motifs as well in there. I think there are parallels to draw there.
Mm-hmm.
Just drawn them.
Just drawn those parallels. Okay. So next up is that's all we had to say, wasn't it? Was there anything else you need to say?
Yeah, that was a good
Good.
shout. Good shout.
Next up was a bit of a strange one for me, a movie called Burial. So this was the first film I saw at Fright Fest where I was like, is this a horror? Quietly. Say it quietly. Is this a horror? I felt like that.
Yeah.
So this film is directed by Ben Parker. Again, it's a British film. It stars Harriet Walter, Tom Felton of Harry Potter. Is that him?
Is it the Malfoy kid that's
Yeah,
in
that's it. Yeah.
he's in 222 now on the stage as well now?
Oh, okay. Okay. So set in the last days of World War II, it tells the story of a small band of Russian soldiers tasked with trafficking the discovered remains of Adolf Hitler back to Stalin in Moscow. En route, the unit is attacked by German werewolf partisans. We do that. Picked off one by one. Do you know what? Do you know what really, really confused me about this? Right, this film stars. I'm trying to remember his name. This film stars. I don't know what his real name is. I only know him as Angelos Epithemu from from Shooting Stars. Daniel Renton Skinner, right? So he's playing like one of the soldiers. Not a Russian guy. I think he's a British guy. And he's supposed to be threatening and a little bit creepy and scary and stuff. And I was just like, what? That's Angelos Epithemu from. Now I think he was in the movie Prevenge as well. You know, of Alice
I've
Lowe.
not seen Prevenge. I'm aware of what it is though.
Yeah, he was in that, and he was a bit more of a, if I remember, a bit of a doofus. Him doing a serious role in like Burial, like really did kind of like confuse me. And to be fair, I don't know. So I'm not going to spoil it, but werewolves. When I go like that, there are no werewolves in this movie.
Okay.
There's like a wraparound story, which I think is the only thing that really feels that interesting. With an actress named Harriet Walter, it's like a modern day scenario. Someone breaks into her house, she gets one up on them, and then goes back in time and tells his story. I didn't even realize they were trafficking the remains of Hitler for ages. I was like, who's in that box then? Who's this? Oh, it's I think it's a bit of a stretch to call it a horror. I don't think I would call it a horror. I would just say a World War II action drama. You know, if it was framed like that, I think if I'd watched it at Fright Fest, I may have been a bit confused as to why it was on the screen. So yeah, in terms of choice reviews, what choice reviews have we got?
I'm having a look here as well.
Yeah, I know. So someone says, disclaimer: there are no real werewolves in this movie. Thrilling action sequences and a great leading performance make for a fine piece of alternative history. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? It's not a piece of alternative history, but I think if you added a supernatural element to it, it probably would have been a lot more interesting. It was hinting towards it, but I think it was quite clear from, maybe like a halfway point that supernatural element was never going to be lent into. But yeah, I just didn't quite get what I perhaps wanted from it.
I'm seeing comments that kind of echo that, like Harriet Walker rules in the wraparound. Tom Felton puts on a surprisingly lovely performance. Where I am seeing some of the less positives on that appear to be less commentary and, in fact, sometimes quite apologetic of the movie, but more just indicative of a burnout with British-made World War II films. So Not for me. I can't seem to get into war films. Another review: need an embargo on British World War II films. Um, Good war film about taking Hitler's body back to Russia as proof of death. Good acting and action. It's not a horror movie, but it would still good. Well, a well-made movie, but not my kind
Yeah,
of film. So
I
I
think
think
that's the thing.
maybe it's struggling to strike a chord with this particular audience who were at an event really focused on horror. But there's appeared to be a lot of praise for the film
Hmm.
overall. I can't comment on this one because I haven't seen it. I do still want to watch it though.
I don't know what I would say if you're a fan of anything. What to recommend? I don't know, really. I would say if you're a fan of, if you're expecting a horror movie set in World War II, um, go and watch what's it called? Oh, God,
Oh, I
what,
know
what,
exactly the one you're thinking of.
what have I forgotten
Overlord.
about? Overlord. God, I hate that. I hate that when you're, you know, finishing a sentence and then suddenly the very key piece of information just vanishes. But yeah, Overlord is probably the one. Go and watch that because if you see the trailer for Burial or you see any of the promotion for it, you might be expecting something like that. So that's not what it is. Go and watch Overlord because that is great. Um, yeah, there is next on the list because it's going like day by day is the closing film, but I think maybe if we save that to the end.
All right,
Fancy that? Save it
let's
to
do
the end.
that.
I watched another. The next film I watched was The Eyes Below, which is directed by Alexis Brucon, stars Vinicius Coelho and Pauline Morel. It's French. It's very, very short. It's only like 77 minutes long for a feature. So Eugene goes to bed. Everything is calm and silent. He's about to fall asleep, but something creeps up his legs, his stomach, and then his chest. Uh, Unfortunately, this was a bit one note for me. It felt like that scene I've just described then, someone going to bed and then being tormented by some sort of thing, like a sleep paralysis demon, or doesn't that isn't what it is, but you know, it's visually, I think it's again well made. Sound design was great, performance was good, visually it was good. I just kind of felt like in terms of plot and story, it was a bit one note. The same sort of thing kept happening over and over again. The
Mhm.
music swells as some sleep paralysis creepy demon thing terrorizes this guy, then the music calms as oh actually maybe I'll get some sleep. I think if you're in this scenario you would, I don't know, leave the house, go somewhere else, do something. The fact that it just keeps happening, it felt a bit easily could have worked as a short. I don't know if it's adapted from a short at all, but this, in terms of 77 minutes long, which is a very short feature, felt too long. It just felt like it kept.
So you would have kept it as a short and then had everything happen maybe once or what have you, and just
Yeah,
revel in that.
I think so. I think yeah, I just think it ran out of ideas pretty quickly. Um, so yeah, I don't want to be super negative about it. I just found of all the films I watched at Fright Fest, this was the one which kind of really I really struggled to keep my attention on it, and it's got a great looking poster, really great looking poster, some nice typeface on there as
Just
well.
pulling
So
this
you
up
know,
now. It does look good, like the silhouette
yeah.
here that's
I
coming
mean, it was
along.
I mean, in terms of choice review, someone says claustrophobic, weird vibes galore. Yeah, 100% on board with that. Um, yeah, some interesting ideas, but would have been better as a 20-minute short instead of a 70-minute movie. Yeah, I think I agree with that. It could have easily been a really good scene in a 70-minute movie, but it kind of just yeah. Um, so yeah, someone says competently made. Based on this, looking forward to what Alexis Brucon can produce with a larger budget. Definitely a set constructed outside of the living room, so maybe you know, there's no budget,
Mhm.
and in terms of narrative structure, it feels like it's more of a like an atmospheric piece rather than something that's telling a particularly interesting story, at least.
But conceptually, like I guess that's your recommendation if sleep paralysis or that kind of
Sleep paralysis,
concept
anything like that.
affects you, then it might be worth picking up from a conceptual level.
Yeah, yeah. Don't know what I'd say. I'd recommend. Guess maybe just like I guess it's like it's a bit one note, but Conjuring stuff, Babadook in a way, like some of that.
Conjuring, Babadook, maybe Lights Out, something like that. I know that's
Oh yeah, Lights
again
Out, definitely. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Go for like get yourself involved in Lights Out. Even just watch the Lights Out short, because I think if you do that, you'll get a lot from it.
a lot of the
Just yeah,
flavor. Great.
One and a flavor. Sorry, it seems like we're listing only the ones I've seen so far. But another movie I watched is called Pussycake. So this is an Argentinian movie, Argentinian horror movie, directed by Pablo Perez, starring Anehi Politi, Flor Moreno, Maca Suarez. A struggling all-girl rock band called Pussycake kick off a new tour in the hopes it will be the spark they need to resurrect their careers. But things don't start off well because they show up to their first gig, it's deserted, and it turns out that everyone's been infected by some weird, like vomiting, creepy zombies with like these bugs on the back of their heads.
Okay.
There's monsters. I guess it's a bit interdimensional sort of what word am I thinking of here? Lovecraftian
Like
cosmic
Eldritch
horror
horrors.
stuff, eldritch horror stuff. Loads and loads of gore. Like the effects are really good. The music was pretty good, and the characters are all pretty interesting as well. Again, pretty short. It was like 82 minutes. But yeah, I pretty much enjoyed this. It was a different sort of zombie movie as well. You know, the fact that these zombies were vomiting up all of this horrible milky goodness. I don't say goodness, but vomiting up all the fridge vanilla flavored milkshakes all
Oh,
over
lovely.
everyone's faces. Yeah, and some of the kills are particularly gruesome and like, oh, how the hell did they do that? That is very, 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 very
I was
interesting.
a little sad I missed this one. The screener had expired by the time I came to watch it, but also like I wouldn't have even tried it because I think you watched it quite early in the set, right? So we had to try and cover everything. I think this is one of the ones that I'm going to be looking for opportunities to try and catch up on because it looks like something I'd probably enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, what would I say for fans of, I guess like Shaun of the Dead, you know, in a way that it's like that. Psycho Gorman, but obviously not as silly as that, and not doesn't wear its sort of personality on its sleeve.
Feels like just from your description, maybe something like Night of the Creeps, if you haven't covered yet, like maybe something along those lines, maybe something
Yeah,
like
I
just
don't
for
know
the
if I.
over the top nature of it, maybe like a Brain Dead or something. Who knows?
Yeah, I can agree with that. I don't think I've seen. I don't know if I've seen an Argentinian movie before either. I've seen Brazilian movies, but you know, even if it's the first Argentinian movie I've seen, that's no, that's pretty exciting. It says Evita's an Argentinian movie. I mean, it's about an Argentinian
Person.
person, so it's not an Argentinian movie, is it? Yeah. So what we got? Choice reviews. There's a lot going on in this movie. There's a lot going for it. I'm always here for a new twist on the zombie flick. Yeah. Having the zombies barf milky jizz into people's mouth is a nice take. There's a lot of that. Yeah.
I've seen a couple here. So much color, blood and gore. Um, honestly, the idea of zombies holding me down and vomiting from into my mouth is far worse than just being bit.
Yeah.
Tear me open, eat my intestines, but please don't puke in my mouth. That is from fake Voorhees.
Come on, boys. Someone says heavy Evil Dead and Psycho Gorman energy. Yeah, I'm pretty much there with that. So next up is a film called The Ones You Didn't Burn,
Oh,
directed by Elise Finnerty, starring Elise Finnerty, Samuel Dunning, Estelle Gerard Parks. It's a US movie. Nathan and Mira are in no way close siblings, but their fathers pass him and they must return to their old family farms to sell off the land.
okay. So yeah, this is when I saw it. It's a story about I guess it really touched on themes of sins of the fathers. This is kind of like the far-flung future sequel to films like The Witch. It's talking about the witchcraft and society and how it's done, but it's done in a very modern sense. There are themes of addiction that run through it, and with loss and of suicide and so on, as well as the supernatural elements as well. So it's a really character focused movie speaking about this relationship between primarily this brother and sister who've both moved away from their father's home, who are drawn back by his untimely death, and while they care for each other, they're quite estranged. Their relationship is quite fractured and not as close as it might have once been. And the influence of these, what's happening with this land, who their family have acquired that land from, and what that means in the wake of their father's passing, leaving behind all these mysteries that aren't solved in the opening scene. I don't think it spoils it to say that we do hear the dad's voice recorded via answer phone messages that weren't picked up ahead of his death, and there's clearly a mystery or something he would like to be able to discuss with his children, and he never gets that opportunity to. So we, as the viewers, go through that experience as they're meeting these characters and trying to sort out the house and deal with their own demons in the wake of his death. Arguably, doesn't sound like in the same way as the burial. It isn't quite so overtly grounded in supernatural horror and things. It's definitely more of a implications and a character piece, really looking at how that can be perceived in a supernatural light. Not much to say beyond that without spoiling it. It's a very deliberate and character focused movie. So
I believe it's Elise Finity's debut movie. Is that all right?
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that, but yeah, really, really. And you say Elise Finity stars in it as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can see there's a lot of love for this story and a lot of care and attention that's gone into putting it together and telling what is an impactful story for them. I would say recommended for people who will really vibe with the building of characters. It's not going to be one for people who want high octane action and the cackling of these witches as they soar across the room on brooms. It venture into implied in that grounding in reality. There's a lot that speaks and psychedelic experiences that can happen there as well, and the influence on people's characters there, as well as kind of confronting a past. They go back to a town where they both grew up and they haven't been seen for a long time, and they meet some old characters. So yeah, that's all there is to say about that. What can I recommend it for people who enjoyed? Again, it's a completely different time period, but if The Witch, that level of pacing and that level of character exploration and things being unfolded, plus the themes of witchcraft and so on, even though it has a completely different time setting, if The Witch and films like it are things that you enjoy, it's probably worth delving in and watching this one.
Yeah, there's a couple of recommendations here in one of the reviews where it says steady, dark, brooding atmosphere, similar to The Dark and the Wicked and What Josiah Saw. I mean, I've not seen either of those. Here, the foreboding sense of dread isn't as suffocating as those films, but still has enough to keep the viewer gripped.
Yeah, and when I think about it now, all I keep going back to, and I'm trying to pull other recommendations from, this may be a deep cut. I'm not sure how this has lasted, but when I think about the struggles of character and where they are in the world and what vices they give into, have you ever seen the Christian Bale movie, which is not horror at all, Harsh Times?
I don't know if I have,
I mean,
I don't know if I have. Harsh Times.
Harsh Times. I'd recommend it. That gives me the feelings of this. This is characters who are dealing with a difficult situation, who aren't all good, aren't all bad, but are desperately trying to hold things together in the face of their vices and the face of problems that they're having, and varying degrees of success of doing that.
I recognize the poster, and it's got the guy from. It's got Freddie Rodriguez from Planet Terror in it as well.
Yeah, there are some harsh times to be had in that film.
Keeping on the theme of burning, there's another movie that you saw called Everyone Will Burn.
Everyone will
burn.
burn.
So did you watch the movie called The Ones You Didn't Burn, followed by everyone who got burned in
I,
it.
I
Everyone got
I
burned.
watched it the other way around. So I saw a film that promised everyone would burn, except there were some people that weren't. Watch
Someone
those.
didn't burn.
Yeah.
So everyone will burn. It's directed by Daniel Herbrero, with Macarena Gomez, Rodolfo Sancho, Sofia Garcia. It's a Spanish movie. This was the UK premiere of it. In a small village in Leon, Spain, Maria Jose prepares to end her life after failing to get over the suicide of her bullied son years before. But everything changes when she receives a visit from Lucia, a strange little girl who could be connected to a local legend about stopping an impending apocalypse.
Yeah, this is pure like European cinema. We talked about Dario Argento earlier on. This has the it's a Spanish, not Italian movie, but it has those giallo qualities. Less of the lighting that you get from a giallo movie. It feels very Mediterranean Spanish in some of those senses. So it's more muted than a giallo film, but it has those dreamlike qualities that you get in it. There are some leaps in logic and some transitions of time and some bizarre imagery that you don't quite see coming and take a little bit of time to pass. Um, but it was a really compelling movie. It was a film that I didn't necessarily feel I understood immediately, but yeah, I would not have switched this off. I continued watching through, and it was bringing you through the story as more people kind of get pulled into this legend and this mystery. And there's even some surreal approaches to the character itself. So the little girl that that our lead character meets at the start, we open the film really cold open with this little girl who's covered in mud and filth and just standing on this open bridge, and she just goes and talks to this lady who is standing on the precipice of jumping off. And then before you know it, they're coming back in, and this little girl is calling her mom, and she begins with saying, "I'm not your mom," but then before long she's playing along with it and kind of going through this prophecy, and
Oh
she
yeah.
kind of almost wills herself into this family and then brings other people into the equation. um
Yeah.
and she exhibits some strange powers, some really visceral scenes when those powers come into effect as to how she deals with some of the bullies and the antagonist characters and the kind of smiling enemies that they have within the community that have kind of enabled that, and they talk about her behind her back, um and the prophecy that's linked to that has a deeper supernatural element. A really interesting piece. I couldn't tell you that watching this in the scenario that we have, I could really fully appreciate everything that film had to say. I wouldn't be qualified to give a really breakdown of the meanings behind that. And I think the visual surreal nature of it really comes into play as well. I would say our lead character, this little girl who has the strange powers, it's very difficult to read because I think it is a person of small stature is a little person that's playing this role, and then it gives a real kind of unsettling feeling, especially the way that this character talks and is seen to know certain things and have this mystical about her. It really leads to those conversations, as we see from the characters, that is this a little girl or is it, an adult that's behaving like a child and just happens to be a small, like a
Not a bloody
small.
orphan, is it?
Yeah, it's not the bloody orphan, nowhere near. Not got a not got
Any
a backwards baseball cap on to prove that she's younger.
any movies that you'd recommend as a similar sort of vibe to this? I guess Spanish horror. Is it in the realms of like The Orphanage or any
Yeah,
genre?
it has that kind of soft supernaturalism of something like The Orphanage. The Orphanage kind of meets The Omen, but the threat and who is good and who is bad isn't quite so clear cut as in a film like The Omen. It's
Mhm.
essentially a child that has these strange powers and is acting out violence towards the, the enemies, but it's not entirely. It's really hard to pull an exact thing. I think your best pick is probably something like The Orphanage, The Omen. To a lesser fantastical degree, something like Pan's Labyrinth as well. Like,
Okay.
there's fantastical elements and there's a deep lore behind this that we see begin to unpick.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. Sounds good. Another one that you've seen as well. Next up, Andy, is a movie called Mean Spirited, directed by Jeff Ryan, starring Michelle Ventimiglia, Jeff Ryan, Will Madden. Two estranged friends reconnect. Things buried deeper about to surface. An up-and-coming vlogger, his name's Andy, who attempts to reconnect with a strange friend. This all starts to fall apart when a demonic presence begins tormenting the vacationing group. Leave us alone, demonic presence.
Yeah, stop spoiling everything, demonic presences. This is Andy behind me for those of you watching the video. Kind of a comedic take. It leans into the visuals of and the parlance, I guess, of like a YouTuber, and it's done in a found footage style. With this YouTuber channel and the associate people that make this channel with the character Andy really go and visit their estranged friend who's basically become rich and successful and is a Hollywood movie star in like MCU style movies now. He's called Thunderman. And he
Nice.
yeah, they build into those conversations that they're trying to work out what happened between them, and there are other characters that they meet that are kind of exaggerated characters, caricaturish in that that they are the pure one who is heavily implied to be a virgin, even though he's got a girlfriend with him, and there's the guy that's kind of a bit of a burnout and a bit of a fuck up, and he's kind of along with them, and the guy that's become successful, and the jealousy of the original character that this friend has kind of moved on with his life while he is still doing what they used to do before his friend became successful with him. But it's tonally it's quite difficult because not difficult. It's I think it changes its tone quite heavily in that it begins with a very kind of comedic air to it, but then becomes a more serious film by the end. I think the intention of that is that there is a serious message to it. It quickly begins to back away from some of the comedic elements, and then they're never entirely gone. The dialogue in particular is still meant to be it's irreverent and quite it still has some jokes in there, and they have the reactions, some of the physical elements channel like the thoughts of the original Evil Dead films and so on as well. And this cult activity, and there are demons, but it never goes full comedy. I wouldn't say. I don't think it's ever intended that you are going to be rolling around laughing and quoting the lines and feeling like it's purely done for laughs. There is a more serious and darker tone to it than let's say something like The Wrong One In that we saw at FrightFest Glasgow or a Shaun of the Dead. This has feelings of a slightly lighter toned, like a Paranormal Activity.
Well, one of the reviews here says like Chronicle with demons, so demonical.
I'll take it.
Demonical, yeah. An overwhelming, light-hearted sense of fun, even if it's darker moments which are meshed well with things like The Last Exorcism. There's an appealing sense of awe. Okay.
Yeah, like I say, it definitely is played for laughs to a degree, but don't expect it to be that they've purely designed a comedic film. It is designed to have actual horror to it as well. So yeah, Paranormal Activity vibes with less insufferable characters than Micah, day trading red flags man. Yeah, and this guy's job as a YouTuber, and he's less problematic than Micah. So
Micah. Okay, nice one. That was Mean Spirited. So next up is Cult of VHS documentary, directed by Rob Preciado, with Graham Humphreys, David Gregory, Michael Keane, Kevin Martin, aka Video Store Kev, uh, and obviously producer Aaron Truss as well, who we spoke to in a bonus episode talking all about the documentary. As far as I'm aware, it was really well received at FrightFest, a sold out screening. Everyone was well into it. So yeah, it's like a love letter to the VHS format, with collectors, fans, people talking about all their memories of the format. There's the graphic artist Graham Humphreys, who did a lot of VHS sleeves for things like Evil Dead, talks a lot about that. Movie makers, and just anybody you can imagine who would have some sort of connection to VHS, telling tales of their favorite films that were on the format, and also their first experiences of the genre, sorry, of the format. And as for people of a certain age, it will be something that's absolutely a huge nostalgia fest. There's a whole section on video nasties as well, which Aaron mentioned he was very keen to include on there. He thought that was very key, especially to UK video fans. So yeah, like a load of interviews, footage from some films that you'll know, some films that you won't. And I think in general, it's just a nice trip down memory lane. Well, there's a tagline here. It says a trip down Memorex lane.
Oh, very good.
And in terms of somebody who's been watching a lot of these sort of like making of and sort of film, how could you describe them? Like pretty much like love letter feature length documentaries about films and genres and various other things as well. It's just as well made as all of the really good ones as well. I've obviously watched In Search of Darkness recently, and it's just as well made as that. And yeah, a really nice documentary full of nostalgia for fans of analog, I guess. And I mean, some of the reviews here say a bunch of nerds showing off their collections, plus a brief history of the format. I'm like, no, it's definitely a bit more than that. It feels like there's some substance to it. It's not just like a load of people just talking about their collections and how much videos are going for on eBay. But yeah, it's well made. There are a lot of interesting personalities on the show, and you'll hear some very interesting stories, and you'll spend time with a lot of people that I think it's fun to spend time with. You feel like you're spending time with real movie buffs and movie fans as well. So yeah, I highly recommend it. Obviously, if you want to find out more about that, please listen to the bonus episode where I talked to producer Aaron Truss all about the making of this, how it came together, and yeah, get involved. Good times. Enjoyed that.
What would you recommend? Like, is like so cult VHS is like In Search of Darkness.
In Search of Darkness, maybe the last Blockbuster documentary as well. That was fun. I think the last Blockbuster is being made into a TV series as well. I found out, like a comedy
I saw
drama
that
on
yeah,
Netflix.
with
Did you see that?
some of the at least one of the Brooklyn Nine-Nine cast in it, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, recommended. Next movie for me is a movie called Swallowed. Just me, right? You didn't watch this?
I haven't seen Swallowed yet. No.
Yeah, there is another movie called Swallow, isn't there? About that woman who like swallows a load of mad shit, like a pin and a bonsai tree. I don't know about a bonsai tree. Made that up. This was a really nice surprise, So it's directed by Carter Smith, stars Jenna Malone, Cooper Koch, and Will Patton. And how could you? This is another one I feel like where you could probably say, is it quite a horror? I don't know, not entirely sure if it definitely is. But yeah, of course, Mark Patton, the star of A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2,
Yeah, Freddy's Revenge.
gets
Jesse
to dial
himself.
it up. Like, so if Jesse himself was like, if they're like, is this character supposed to be gay? Are there loads of gay connotations and gay undercurrents to this movie when it clearly is, some 30 years later? Well, Mike Patton in the movie Swallowed gets to live out all of the dreams of being a gay character, and really chewing the scenery in terms of being a gay character, a bad guy as well, So his performance was like, as soon as he walked into to a particular scene, I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad. It's good to see this guy, and very charismatic, and provided a really good threat to the main characters. I mean, the basic plot is there are two friends, Benjamin and Dom. although they're friends, I was a little bit like, are they in a relationship for a while? And then as time followed on, you realized they're not in a relationship. So that was a bit confusing. Um, and they get involved in sort of like a drug deal slash delivering a package over the border for a friend scenario. It's more like a sort of Breaking Bad style drug infused drama. And I guess the horror elements are that there's a significant threat, and then there's a slightly odd, not supernatural as such, an odd sort of body horror
Okay.
element that comes into play. That is the only thing that I would really consider it being horror. But other than that, it is a really well made film. The characters are really engaging, and their relationships are great. Jenna Malone has got like a quite a small part in it, but she's very good as well. And it just takes a turn at probably like, I want to say the halfway point, but it's probably a little bit after that. It takes a turn and becomes a very, very different film. So it's directed by Carter, as I mentioned already, but it's directed by Carter Smith, who directed the movie The Ruins,
Okay.
which you may have seen. A very,
That one,
very different
that one
film
with the
to that.
plants that grow in you and get you.
That's right, yeah. So yeah, a very different sort of film to that. But yeah, just a film that kept me really engaged, and I was kind of really interested in where the story was going. And by the time Will Patton, wait, that's his name, isn't it? Have I said that wrong?
More pattern. Yeah.
But it's Mark Patton. Sorry, Will.
Mark
Sorry,
Patton.
Mark. God damn it. God. I'm just reading names of it. By the time Mark Patton comes into proceedings, it really gives it like this jolt of energy that I feel like it really needed. And by the time sort of things play out, is quite an interesting sort of scenario. What would I recommend it for fans of? Obviously, if you're a fan of A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 and you love Mark Patton in that, then watch this to see him really get his teeth into a really interesting part. Where they've obviously said, it feels like one of those roles, when someone said, just do whatever the hell you want,
Yeah.
act however,
Play it out. Do it.
play it out, act however you want. Apart from that, like Nightcrawler, maybe with Jake Gyllenhaal,
Okay.
just as sort of like nighttime. I don't know if it is set in LA, to be honest, but it kind of feels like this sort of nighttime, big city, sleazy sort of like relationships, drug deals, everything going down, and it's got like this sort of body horror element. The body horror element could have been absent, and it would have been just as good as a movie. Some choice reviews saying it's an LGBTQ horror thriller following two best friends in a messed up situation. Yeah, it seems like people are all pretty positive on it as well. So lots of subtle genre nods. But someone says it's disappointingly tame and thoroughly dull. Here's the thing, if it lent more heavily into the body horror stuff, I think it would have been a better film. But as what people are calling it here, like a queer DIY horror film, it was successful in that. And I think having an iconic actor from the history of LGBTQ genre filmmaking, especially horror, is probably helps that a lot. So
Huge,
yeah,
huge point. I mean, I'm not going to read the full review because it gives a little insight into the later parts. But Alice here says, "Mark Patton, I love you."
Mark Patton, I love you. Not Will Patton. Sorry, Mark Patton. Why did I do that? To be fair, reading a lot of names out. That's the reason. Next up is a movie called The Ghost of Monday, which I believe you saw, Andy. The poster for it, that's the Haunting of Hill House, right?
Let's have a look. Remind myself of the poster, The
It's
Ghost
like
of Monday.
half a face and then like a something that looks like ripped paper and then like a scary house.
Oh yeah, there you go.
So Ghost of Monday, directed by Francesco Cincamani. It's a Cypriot movie. Okay. Starring Julian Sands, Anthony Scordi, Mark Huberman. Eric Lindstrom is the showrunner of a popular American paranormal TV series, The Ghost of the New World. Following a freak accident in the series finale, the network pulled the plug. But redemption comes in an offer to travel to Cyprus to make a pilot about a tragically famous hotel where more than 100 people died in mysterious circumstances.
And there we go. Julian Sands, of course, most famously, I would say, the professor from Arachnophobia, the spider professor.
Oh yeah, of course. Quite
Um,
a big name.
yeah. So yeah, it is an English language film, despite it being, set in and around Cyprus. So it's not like some of the other movies you've seen from the countries that are not presented in English. So English movie. For a British audience in particular, you will get most haunted vibes from this. There's no Derek Acora analog. Um, maybe Julian Sands' character.
Derek
But
Gore, rest in peace.
yeah. Um, so yeah, it's about a failing TV show that they've done. I think it's perhaps been more legitimate in the past. It's had elements of that history to it, and they haven't been resorting to trickery and so on. But now, wanting to make something that will catch the network's attention and relieve that pressure to be successful, they are leaning into something more, um, going into that horror. But then, of course, real ghouly things start happening. Um, there is, some quite shocking moments of violence when things come up, in this. There are some decent, sudden scares that come into this movie. What would I recommend this for viewers of? I think if you enjoy, it's not quite so visceral and out there in terms of the physical horror and those bits, but John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness will thematically line up with something like this,
Okay.
along with you pulled it from the poster, Ben. House on Haunted Hill as well.
Okay.
That kind of feeling, I think, comes into this very heavily when as we unpick this mystery. And actually, if you think very particularly about the House on Haunted Hill remake, the media angle of it, and those people that are there to record a show in a
Why are they
haunted
ghosts of
building.
Monday? Why aren't they ghosts of Tuesday? What's
Oh,
they
they
like about Monday? Is this
just
like some sort of interesting take on like, oh, always living for the weekend, are you? Well, here's Monday again,
here's
and all these
Monday, and it's
people.
gonna get you. And those hotels, the rates are cheaper on a Monday because obviously people want to go away for a weekend Cyprus. So Monday, that's when you're gonna get your best deals. That's when the ghosts all come out.
Couple of choice reviews here. Somebody says this is pedestrian nonsense, but guys, that ending is insane. Um, Someone else, I will never tire of Julian Sands chewing the scenery.
He does go
Uh,
hard in this, does Julian Sands.
Goes hard. And then somebody else says about as good as a horror film called The Ghosts of Monday sounds. Take from that, take from that what you will.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, hyperbole aside, like I found it perfectly watchable. Does it have those heights or those truly unique visuals that we might get from the analogs we pulled, like John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness? Possibly not, but
mm.
it's got some worthwhile moments, and it goes deeper into the lore than I thought it was going to. It's a little bit more than, oh, there's a ghost in here that's cross that you come into this hotel. It's got a little bit more depth to it than that.
Nice. Okay. So next up is Everybody Dies by the End, directed by Ian Tripp and Ryan Schaefer. Bill Oberst Jr., Vinnie Curran, Caroline Armagway. Star. It's an American movie. Had its world premiere at Fright Fest. Cult horror director Alfred Costello has decided to make his ultimate masterpiece. But now he's returning to the independent movie fold to make his final shocker, an all practical concept with a dark twist. So is it like a documentary's being made about him making a
Yeah,
film?
it's a mockumentary in the fact that our lead character is a documentary maker who has been invited by this filmmaker as he films his like opus, his last movie. It's really referential to lots of elements of the horror genre. There's a couple of films that I watched that lean into some similar tropes here, but this one is played in universe as that it is a horror director that Tarantino style has announced that he's doing a certain number of films and this is his last one he's ever going to do. Um, and we go through with there's almost a cult following around this director and the people who he is on set with. We get lots of lovely cutaways that are staged and unstaged of the making of the film and people actually acting out these the scenes that are there, but then also the
Mhm.
behind the scenes elements of making of the movie. I love some of the references to genre pieces. The director pulls up one joke about how he was, um, slated at one point to direct a movie inside a well-known horror franchise, a movie in the Halloween franchise, and then his ideas of what he would have done with it, lead to some nice comedic elements as well.
Michael Myers with a jetpack.
Almost silver Michael Myers. Yeah, it's got some really good for fans of the genre. It's got some nice little knowing nods that aren't overplayed. It's not like it doesn't go the Ready Player One style. It beats you over the head with its references. It leans into them, and like if you can really enjoy them. There are some good and interesting performances in this one. I really like the unhinged director. There's some great effects work that feels like you've successfully made it look like just things that are happening on a low set on the set of a horror film, very separate from the staged glitzy um, delivery of those kills. So it feels like they've gone quite practical when it's come into making this low budget movie as well. Um, it's got a great energy and things like that, and it's got a really good approach. This director character, our main character here, is so compelling and so unstable to watch, and you don't know what he's going to say. Sometimes it's quite funny, and the other times he can be quite intense, and the times he's quite sympathetic and sad because he's, you know, maybe a filmmaker that's maybe losing his touch or is really keen and clinging to this relevance or to relive his past glories. Uh, and other times he's a really weird director. There's some great scenes where they meet the lead actor for the movie for the first time. He arrives on set, and it starts off like, "Oh, so good to see you, so good to see you." Like, so it's really nice that we get to meet each other for the first time and really get to understand what people are like. I mean, obviously, your resume said that you were 6'4", which you are clearly not, so you're obviously a liar. And it changes on a dime like that from going to quite jovial to all of a sudden it's quite aggressive and oppressive. And yeah, it was an interesting watch. I quite enjoyed this one.
Sounds good. Any recommendations, would you say, if you're fans
Um,
of?
yeah, I mean, different tonally, but it's got that kind of DIY feel of a film like The Blair Witch. It again leans into those found footage movies like a Paranormal Activity, with an escalating tension as things begin to happen as well. Um, Actually, for those of you who've seen it, Behind the Mask, Rise of Leslie Vernon is a good
Oh yeah,
is a good parallel to this one.
good shape. Nice one.
What choice
Uh,
reviews you got for
sounds
us?
good. I haven't got any choice reviews, Couldn't find any choice
I
reviews.
guess it's
So
just had its premiere, so
yeah, I was going to say no one seems to have reviewed it. So I guess we'll move swiftly on to a movie called Hounded, which I think we both saw.
we did.
Directed by Tommy Balding with Samantha Bond, Malachi Pilar Latchman, James Lance, Larry Lamb. This is essentially what if there was like a fox hunt, but with humans. That's essentially it.
Yeah.
Manor House gets like broken into by some South London thieves. Easy pickings, or so they thought, and they walk into a trap and used as pawns for their owner's sinister aims. And yeah, so basically fox hunting with humans. Leans heavily into a lot of like stereotypes,
Mm-hmm.
but I think as like a sort of silly B movie genre film, it's good. I had a lot of fun with this. I think Samantha Bond is, to be fair, I didn't feel much threat from like the villain characters. And I guess if we're supposed to be in some sort, again, another moral question, we're supposed to be feeling a little bit like, who should we be rooting for here? I think it's pretty cut and dry, isn't it? We're not rooting for the posh heads at all at
No,
any
there's
point.
big posh twats.
big posh twats. We're rooting for the criminals who, you know, essentially they're doing a job for somebody else. They're not hurting anybody. They're getting like a painting or like a piece of art or something and selling it to the nearest bidder. Yeah, so it was kind of weird to see James Lance because he's obviously in loads of stuff, isn't he? Like British. I'm trying to
British
think.
TV is the
British TV, yeah.
he's one of the hotel staff in I'm Ellen Partridge.
That's right. That is right. Yes, he's like the sort of young, hip sort of kid. All right, how you doing, Alan? Yeah, you're right. And he's got
Yeah,
like a little bit of a thing going on with one of the Smack the Pony actresses, isn't he?
with
That's
Sally Phillips.
Sally Phillips. That's it. That's what I was trying to recognize where he's from. And he's the one who says, "What's your favorite What's your favorite Beatles album?" I think I'd have to say the best of the Beatles. That's the best beat. That's my favorite Beatles album. Yeah, I don't know. The threat from the villain characters in this, I didn't quite feel as such. It guess it played out a bit predictable. You say that word predictably. Jesus, I am struggling now.
It's
Andy, I've
late.
got to admit, it's late. It's getting on. We're talking about a lot of films. Especially when I've made it to a pub. Hopefully they can help me. Oh, the police are going to help me. We know at every turn that
Yeah,
there's no way. We've seen it done a
we've
million
seen
times.
what's the film with the lake? And
Eden Lake.
Eden Lake.
We've seen it. So in terms of like I really liked the core group of characters who are obviously trying to survive. And I guess yeah, it's a bit like The Hunt, I'd say. It's got that sort of like violent.
Yeah, it's got feelings of the hunt, feelings of what Attack the Block, maybe because of these kind of underdog youths
Yeah,
that you're going
just
to
trying to
root
get
for
by.
along the way.
Yeah. But yeah, I had quite a lot of fun with this. This was very, very watchable and ticked along nicely. And yeah, I think it was good. And I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah,
Choice reviews. Sorry, go on, Andy.
no, I was going to say I think other things I'd link in films like Severance. I feel like
Severance is a good
yeah,
one. Yeah,
it's nice to see some of these newer faces taking on the role of our criminals that we meet here. I feel if this was a film made in a certain era, that this would be like the type of film where Jennifer Ellison or Talisa was one of our lead characters,
yeah,
but
Talisa.
they
Yeah,
have made a sensible choice of just having a a cast that I didn't recognize for the younger characters
I
across the
think
board. In fact, I only see one of them credited, and he's from Sharkbait. Um,
oh yeah, I
but
think the script was pretty good as well. I think
yeah,
I believed kind of everybody, except again the villains were a bit cliche, and it was all the we're we're just giving back. This country used to
this is a code, and that yeah, I think when I got to
yeah
that bit, when I talked about this country used to be based on tradition and everything, it felt a bit like in the first instance it was a project which was we touched on this with the Texas Chainsaw remake recently as well. It was commentaries on the binary nature of culture and some cultural wars issues that we're facing in increasingly in modern society. But the polar opposites that we see written, and I do not know anything about the writer to comment how accurate this is. Um, when I first started watching it, I thought it was going to be perhaps a little bit reductive, and it features, working class, underprivileged youths that have turned to crime, and also in, very upper class aristocracy almost, written from a perspective from someone who didn't fit into either of those groups. So in both
mm,
cases, they were kind of maybe going to be shallow extremes of those. But actually, once we got past that opening scene of this country used to be run by lions and the tradition of it, it
yeah,
becomes more nuanced and it becomes more forgiving
it's
and interesting as a result, I think.
yeah, and obviously it could have been a bit of a commentary on race as well, because obviously the sort of villains are like all these white, well-to-do and the fact that some of these youths, some of them, like 50% of the youths that are sort of involved, are heroes essentially, are people of color. The fact that that's never really touched upon or even suggested by anybody, it's almost like it's an element of it that would be present in this particular scenario of white people hunting down, people, people of color. It's very obvious that someone would have something to say. One of those characters would have something to say in that particular scenario. It feels like it very purposely ignores that, and I don't know if that's a good thing or not, because it's almost like it should at least sort of acknowledge the fact that they're doing this, and it could be perceived in a certain way.
I guess the closest we get to that is when James Lance's character is fighting with I don't have the character's name in front of me, the character who has an Eastern European accent.
Yeah.
And he's fighting with him, and he I think that character pulls out at some point. Why don't you go back go back to where you came from? What you do? And he says, I'm from Peckham.
Yeah.
Like it touches on that, but
primarily
it's focused on the differences in class and their approach to the law, right? The young characters in it are seen as criminals from the beginning because the first action we see them is them robbing a house, whereas the upper class characters are actively hunting and trying to murder people, and they are seen as ignoring the law or being above it almost.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those films where like but leaning so heavily into those stereotypes, it's gonna be a bit frustrating in places. But still, I enjoyed it.
I found it enjoyable. I think I feel quite forgiving of this movie. I think it was done well enough that I forgive a lot of its extreme points as artistic license, and it's meant to be exaggerated because it doesn't take it. I don't feel it takes itself all that incredibly seriously, so it's enjoyable.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so the next movie is a movie called The Group, directed by Will Hygo, stars Evangelina Burton, Dylan Baldwin, Jennifer Aries. So again, this is one where this is a world premiere. It's a British movie. After an overdose, heroin addict Cara returns to the support group she abandoned for one last chance to make things right. Again, a movie that you could easily say has got no horror in it at all. I mean, sure, it's a thriller, it's a violent thriller, because there's a mysterious gunman turns up and intends to punish them all for something. It gets involved, and he's like, right, well, we're all here. Why don't you all start telling the truth? That sort of thing.
Why?
I don't know. I was a bit. I don't know. I kind of saw through the plot pretty much immediately. I kind of saw which way it was going to go. Kind of feels a bit over the top. Some of the performances, unfortunately, I don't know if it's just the performances, but maybe it was the script as well. Some of it felt, I don't know. I didn't quite believe it. It really did feel like, I don't know. I didn't feel like I had much in terms of tension. There wasn't much in terms of. I think if the performances were a bit better, I could have easily locked into this plot. But the fact that it didn't kind of have that, I don't know. I felt like another movie. You're supposed to suspend your disbelief for why A wouldn't happen, why B wouldn't happen, and so for that sense, I found it a little bit difficult to really enjoy. And again, I think when you're at FrightFest, I think you expect to see certain movies of certain genres that you're kind of almost hoping sometimes for, especially a film you're not enjoying too much, you're hoping for that element of something extreme or something supernatural or something interesting to come in and save the plot for what is essentially a bit of a half-boiled sort of thriller with some good performances, some that you just don't quite believe, some that you just can't quite get on board with. What would I recommend it for fans of? Not any sort of not any sort of horror, I guess, not really, but I guess some choice reviews. It's a debut feature for the director, so interesting watch, and definitely like it's a bit of a bleak and moody look addiction, and I guess even some elements of the script feel a bit cliche, like some like things have been taken out of the playbook of like what people expect addicts to be like and act like, stealing something, lying about this, which of course is true, but at the same time, just felt a bit cliche in a way.
Okay.
So that was the group. The next film we've got is a film that I think both of us saw, a movie called Control.
We did saw Control.
Control, directed by James Mark, starring Sarah Mitch, George Chortov, Evie Lozelle. It's a Canadian movie. I think it was the world premiere, but it's presented in conjunction with the Trieste Science and Fiction Festival, or maybe Science Fiction Festival. So, young lady locked in a mysterious room and commanded by an unknown voice. She must complete several tasks in order to save her daughter's life. This is, yeah, I guess more like science fiction.
Yeah, it's science fiction.
Single
It's got
location.
elements of films like The Cube to it. I guess it's not Trap so much as it isn't like it's like
Yeah. Cube, escape room.
Portal, like the game.
Yeah.
Like it's like test chambers and so on that people are working through. I haven't played the game of the same name, but with the powers and with the with the
Mhm.
elements that this is built into, I had to Google, is this in any way related to,
Yeah.
like, is this intended to be a
I know
homage
exactly
to
what you mean.
Control the
Yeah.
game? Like there was a little bit of
I mean,
um kind of convergence of those things in my mind as I began watching this movie.
yeah, a little bit like, so obviously there's some sort of, I mean, this isn't a spoiler because it says it in the synopsis, but there's somebody who's got like telekinetic abilities, and essentially there's some force trying to get her to act on these telekinetic abilities in order to like save her daughter. So yeah, a lot of stuff like break that bloody pencil.
Yeah. Unscrew this chair from the table. Do this thing. Yeah, what was your overall take?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Again, pretty well made in terms of a film that's like a singular location. I think it has to be really good to like really. I know we move out of the room a bit, but it has to be really good to kind of really succeed. And I thought it was just okay. I liked some of the elements. There were some interesting twists that I perhaps didn't see coming. Um, so yeah, I would.
Yeah, some interesting twists. Maybe I didn't have the other one that you commented on to know if that's felt the same. I felt conceptually you might have been able to do a slightly tighter film with it. You could probably tell this story in a really concise, meaningful, like 20-30 minutes short. Um,
Hmm. I think that's how I felt about a few of these films. Maybe the
yeah,
films I didn't gel with quite so much. Felt like in terms of concepts, they weren't fleshed out enough to really warrant a feature. That was my only problems.
yeah. But there was still some interesting stuff that I liked. Some of the effect work. I liked the claustrophobia of it. What we saying for films that you would be a fan of? If,
Yeah, I
you'd
think
recommend
I
this.
think Cube's a good shout. Maybe like one of some of the escape room movies. The Platform it reminded me of a little bit. Obviously,
Mhm.
Platform far more bleak and uh, in terms of thematics and commentaries on humans in general. Maybe that. This obviously with the telekinesis stuff. A vanilla version of X. What's that X-Men series called?
Excellent. Oh, Prometheus.
Prometheus.
No, he's not Prometheus. That's a DC villain.
That's
Legion.
a Legion. Yeah, a vanilla version of that.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
I enjoyed it. It gave me like kind of sci-fi Outer Limits
hmm,
episode, those feature-length Outer Limits that we got in our childhood. It gave me good vibes of them. I like a little bit of spooky sci-fi. It's a good short story. Yeah, maybe a little bit long in the delivery, but I think worth picking up and going through.
a little bit long in the tooth, perhaps. Okay, and next is a movie called Do Not Disturb. Director John Ainslie, obviously who you spoke to on a recent bonus episode talking all about the film, stars Kimberly Lafayette, Rogan Christopher, Janet Porter. As an American movie, this was his international premiere at FrightFest. Chloe and Jack travel to Miami for their honeymoon. Amidst the flashy neon and sunny beaches, they decide that a certain experience will strengthen their marriage. But unbeknownst to them, they've been given a rare and powerful strand of the drug that awakens a desire to eat human flesh. As often happens, if you take the wrong drug, suddenly you'll be chowing down on someone's arse.
Yeah, you'll absolutely lose your shit and then accidentally eat someone. I really enjoyed this, not just because I had a chat with John who's very nice, but a really interesting movie. Like looking back on Control, where it's largely set in one location. So there's that claustrophobia, but obviously a completely different experience when it's these people experiencing these gaps in memory and these psychedelics that come down from this drug they've ingested. Elements of comedy to it. There's some really irreverent humor. There's some really good, almost slapstick moments. If you've heard the interview with John, like I came away with the impression that they felt very organic in the same way that you watch the pratfalling that will happen from Bruce Campbell in an Evil Dead movie. Like it felt very authentic. If you've ever had friends that you've seen that are really drunk or on drugs or anything, how they will fall and tumble about and say the most ridiculous, like without context, the most surreal things ever. There's a lot of humor to it, and there's almost some over the top elements to the violence, but at the same time, it is also extreme in places. And then the film also will really dial it in, have some serious conversations about the nature of relationships that you can pause to listen to, and it's not just all throwaway action and a bit of meaningless dialogue between things. There is a meaning behind this that the director and writers are trying to bring out here, and for me, largely very effective. I think there were some really strong performances in this one.
Yeah, a great conversation you had with John as well. So I recommend that if it sounds like it's right up your alley.
Yeah. What do I recommend it if you watched? I guess we might be limited on reviews on this one. It's the international debut just this weekend, but yeah, I'd recommend it for. I mean, elements of things like cabin fever, but obviously that's a disease as opposed to the setting is very different. But that kind of feeling of location, there's not. There's some over the top feelings. There's flavors of things like Evil Dead and James Gunn work in there. There's John himself mentioned that influenced by films like Bug and Bad Batch and things like that as well, that he's really grown up loving.
In terms of the location stuff, it reminded me a bit of, I mean, I haven't seen it obviously, but just from your description and the interview, We Need to Do Something, which is the sort of weird, I guess it is a bit cosmic horror-y, but just from stuck in a place scenario.
I'm trying to think of a good example of a kind of a drug infused like experience, and I'm not sure I can pull one off the top of my memory.
Requiem for a Dream?
I've not seen it. I'll take your word for it.
Take my word for it. Mandy feels like a drug infused experience, to be fair.
Yeah, maybe elements of like Mandy then. Yeah, there's this is really interesting, like tonally very diverse, from the serious nature of their relationship to what some of the more disturbing elements that happen, and then into kind of laughs and jokes again. There were some gasps in this film as I was watching it. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Okay, and then we've got, before we get onto the movie that closed the festival, we've got, so I'm a bit confused by this. So the Once and Future Smash And then it says and End Zone 2, the way it's sort
Yeah,
of being described. Is it one and the same, or is it?
it is. It is a pair of movies that you should experience together. Um,
Yeah, so directed by Sophia Cacchiola and Michael J. Epstein, starring Michael St. Michael, Bill Whedon, a spoof documentary about a faux exploitation film in a double bill fun. Something to do with football cannibal, what
yeah,
football cannibal
uh,
smash.
I'm gonna have to explain this to you. I think
Okay.
absolutely 100% my shit and right up my street on this
Oh
one.
wow. Okay.
It is a it is a two-part thing, and I love it when filmmakers do something like this that really fucks about with narrative and is done with a great amount of joy and this Wes Craven and beyond levels of meta narratives that they're pulling out here.
Okay.
So effectively, End Zone 2, and if you look this up on Letterboxd, I checked this out when I was doing it. End Zone 2 is listed as a 1970 movie. So even saying this, I am speculating. I'm not entirely sure that they haven't done something even more clever here, but the it comes up as a 1970 movie. And when you watch End Zone 2, its statement is that this is a partial movie that we've been able to recover and has been restored that's from 1970s, and people have really poor memory of it and it doesn't really exist. And by the way, we haven't been able to find the last half an hour of it. So it's about an hour long, and it
Yeah.
has great kind of, this is The Burning. It's that kind of it's got the feeling of it hasn't got the same location as a Burning. It's got older characters. It's got like a Black Christmas, a The Burning, that kind a Slumber Party Massacre feel of these
Okay.
group of people that are together. They are appearing in a horror sequel from a film that was, so to say, released in like 1960 odd, about a football player who was beaten up and bullied by his team and had his jaw broken, whose mom, Jason Voorhees style, in the original, killed and blended up the rest of the team so he could eat them with his broken jaw. And now that's what happened in the first movie, which doesn't appear to actually exist. And then this is the sequel to it, and it is played very much for played very cleverly in that it isn't overtly made like a comedy. It's very genuinely made like a 1970s low budget slasher movie, a pre Friday the 13th and pre Halloween slasher movie.
Okay.
And it's made very earnestly, but unless I'm mistaken, it is made now. And it looks at those things quite fondly, and there's that humor that's inherent from those, the way it's delivered. And it's got some hammy scenes, it's got some like cheap effects, and it's got people screaming wildly as they run around through this really, really authentic 70s feeling slasher. So that
Sounds
exists
good.
on its own. The Once and Future Smash is a pseudo documentary which has some incredible names of horror. It's got like the directors of like Jason X and Jason Goes to Hell in there, and people who have played. Good old Uncle Lloyd is there from Trauma,
Oh
talking
wow. Okay.
about the experience of this film. So the beginning of this movie is largely them talking about End Zone 2, a film, and they're delivering lines about how they in the horror community loved that. And now it's being potentially remade. And then it goes into almost like an office style documentary of, there are two people that claim to have played the killer from End Zone. One of them, the guy who was in it for most of the movie, and another one who was only the killer for the end of the movie, which is the reel of the film that no one can find a copy of. So no
Oh
one
god.
remembers him actually being in it. And people quite openly say, I've only seen the first hour of that movie, not the end. And it's played very much for comedy. It has that kind of The Office level of like the cringe humor as you're watching these things unfold. With awkwardness. These two actors that hate each other have to be in a you have to like share a table at a convention together. It has touches of that, it has thematic touches with things like a Borat or something like that as well, which is, you know, that played for comedy because of the ridiculousness of these characters, and then them very sincerely approaching these events and the scenarios that they're in without any recognition as to that isn't really how the real world works. It's got some funny moments in it. It has lots of jokes in there for fans of the genre. And, you know, speaking of making movies and so on as well, and the issue with sequels and reboots, there's a lot of conversation about what they're going to call this film that is set 10 minutes into the second film, but ignores the end of that and the sequels that followed. It takes some digs at some big horror franchises.
Yeah.
And it's done very playfully, very joyfully. It's very silly. It has a touch of trauma energy to it in the production as well. Much like the wider film does, big trauma energy. I can see why they were able to get Lloyd Kaufman to be able to appear here and join in with this one. I enjoyed it. It's very joyful. And then I would fans of Sleepaway Camp, fans of trauma movies, The Toxic Avenger, feelings like films like that. And if you like your second rate slasher movies, you will, if you're a big fan of those, you will get something out of this.
Sweet. Nice one. Okay, so that brings us to the movie which closed the festival, which obviously both of us saw. And that was a movie called Fall, directed by Scott Mann, starring Grace Caroline Curry, Virginia Gardner, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, turns out, doesn't he?
Does.
Mason Gooding. So for best friends, Becky and Hunter, life is about conquering fears and pushing limits. But after they climb 2,000 feet to the top of a remote, abandoned radio tower, a massive, long pole, the longest pole you can ever imagine.
You should never climb up.
Never climb up. They find themselves stranded with no way down. So yeah, their expert climbing skills are put to the ultimate test as they desperately fight to survive the elements. And obviously, a film we mentioned before with The Ledge, which we watched at FrightFest Glasgow. We mentioned that again on this one. A movie that is like thriller / suspense, but I guess you could understand why it would take place at a horror thing because people are scared of heights, you know.
Yeah, this is Anxiety, the movie. I know
Anxiety, the movie. Yeah,
it's the same makers as 47 Meters Down, okay. Which I was watching this with Karen, and she also mentioned that effectively you just made the reverse movie of 47 Meters Down. Like that one, too far down, you're in trouble. This time, too far up. You got to try
too far up.
You got to try and get past it. But
big old wobbly pole.
Yeah, but you know what? Simplicity of the concept alone, people are scared of heights, and that's dead high up. Wasn't half effective. I was watching it with like biting my fist on several occasions.
Yeah. It was very, very tense. A couple of things played out a bit. It was, I don't know, you know, kind of watch a film and you feel like there's so many parts of films that I feel like I've seen, like Cliffhanger, and you know, I'm not going to spoil a certain thing, but a certain twist based on a relationship scenario. You saw it coming a mile off.
Yeah. You could see that as if it was that tower that they're up against. Yeah.
But then again, another sort of twist didn't see coming. Was it effective? Not quite sure. But yeah, this was like edge of your seat, fingernails bitten down to nubbins. I'm quite scared of heights as well. So the thought of this is I think I just quietly passed away up there. I don't know if
I think like this one, I wouldn't realistically, I'd never climb up there in the first place. Like Hunter would have said to me, Andy, don't let yourself be ruled by fear. And I was like, I actually think it's braver not to be peer pressured, Hunter. Get yourself.
I think it's braver to be scared and not climb up this horrible, rusty, wobbly, tall, thin pole where when you get to the top, what do you get to sit on? The same sort of platform. It's the same size as a coaster.
Yeah,
Just
I,
sat
I, I
there.
feel I feel like if I was gonna climb up there at all, I would have taken a parachute and just accepted that I'm just tumbling off this.
Yeah.
Because when that ladder fell down, that's in the trailer. It's not a spoiler. That like the ladder falls down, they're stuck at the top. I think I wouldn't have tried anything. I'd have been like, right, I'm dead. Bye. Jumped off.
Yeah. I think that's only fair, isn't it?
Um,
Um,
yeah, really, really like effectively done though. I say what you want about the story itself, and the what's predictable, what is um you know what takes you by surprise, what the character relationships are, and so on. But the moment to moment tension is expertly done. Whatever you take away from the characters is one thing, but it does not feel horrible watching them up there.
Yeah, there's a lot of tension based on, different methods that they're trying to make the most of to survive, and things where you're like, oh, they're saved, it's fine. And then things go tits up fairly soon. There's an interesting use of a drone as well, which starts off as like them filming a vlog, but in the end they kind of not in the end, but eventually they use it to as something to perhaps help them get down. Pretty tragic, I guess, not without spoiling things. Jeffrey D. Morgan's like the dad on the end of the phone. That's the extent of his role. But still, it injects a quite decent. And I think Mason Gooden is in the first scene. He's obviously in the recent Scream movie, Scream 5, 5 Cream. He's in that. Grace Caroline Curry, one of the leads. She's in things like Annabelle Creation, both Shazam movies, apparently. And Virginia Gardner is in Halloween 2018. So, a decent cast, and I think it makes it this is the perfect example of what a good performance does for a movie, because I just feel like these actors are accomplished in what they're doing, and it helps that tension. Whereas in a movie like, sorry to throw it under the bus, The Group, it feels like based on the skills of those actors, I was already not invested in anything that was going on.
Mhm.
But I could imagine actors of this caliber in that same scenario would have definitely made me more interested. So I think that's why Fall does well, because of the I guess the direction, the script, and also the actors as well. Recommended for fans of, I mean, I guess you say The Ledge, I guess you say Cliffhanger, I guess you'd say any sort of in a place surviving movie. 127 hours.
127 hours, 47 meters down,
Yep.
frozen.
The Shallows.
Yeah, the shallows. Yeah,
All of these kind of like fighting for survival movies. Definitely.
I
And
guess
I
I should
really,
clarify when I say frozen, I mean the one where they get stuck on a chairlift, not
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
magical Disney princesses that
Well,
I
that's all
have
right. I'm
ice
trying to
powers.
bloody ice powers. Okay, so that was the movie that closed. Obviously, what we'll do now, seamless transition over to Lucy. I'm there as well. Over to me and Lucy,
Are you
where she'll
gonna
tell us.
you're gonna talk about the fall first, so it's a seamless transition where you literally get her to go.
Yeah, we'll ask
Oh,
Lucy Lucy, what do you think about about
yeah.
Fall, and then we'll ask her what else she saw
Yeah.
before we move on.
Tell you what, as I won't see her in person, may I hand over to her?
Do it.
Um, hey, Lucy in the future, this is Andy from the past here. What did you think about the fall?
Just go Fall.
Oh, shit. What did you think about fall, Lucy? Sorry, I had to clarify that. I hope that Ben will pass this on accurately or
There's a
play you
film
the
called The Fall,
recording.
and she might be like, "Well, I know about a film called The Fall."
Yeah, don't.
Okay.
I'm not. It's not that I'm not interested about the your feelings on the fall, but just for the purposes of today, just tell me what you think about fall 2022.
Hello, Lucy. Lucy's here now. There she is. Look at that. By the magic of podcast editing, we fast forward 24 hours, and Lucy joins us. But Andy's gone forever. Not forever. He'll be back in a minute.
Hello, thanks for having me back for a
Hello,
special
welcome.
episode.
Thanks very much for coming back. And of course, special bumper edition of Horror Hangout this week, discussing all the movies that we saw at FrightFest. Me and Andy have just chatted about all the films we saw, but you've seen some as well. But not only have you seen some, you were actually there at the event in London, in the screens, in the seats, surrounded by the best and brightest horror fans and horror journalists, and Edgar Wright.
And Edgar Wright.
Let me get this straight. I'm assuming he was in the same screen as you as well, right?
He was, yeah. So Edgar, like, just to clarify, he didn't have a film there, but he was just there as a fan. So basically, he'd rocked up for the closing film, which was Fall. And he was just hanging out in the lobby, obviously, before the film started. And a mate of mine, if she's listening, shout out to Tessa, because she gave me the courage to go up to him, because I wouldn't have if it wasn't for her. She just sort of walked up to him like, "Hello, Edgar." And I was like, what the fuck? Like,
you can't do that.
She had so much confidence, and I was just like, holy shit. But he was so lovely. Like, you know,
Wow.
really, really quick. Hello, big fan. Can I take a picture? And he was great. So, yeah. Because it's always a worry when you meet someone that you like or idolize that they're going to be a twat. But I mean, I had heard good things about him, and obviously I fully appreciate he didn't owe me anything. He wasn't there as like a meet and greet or anything. So it was nice of him to take the time to do that. So yeah, very nice.
Yeah. I'm sure he seems like a lovely guy.
He was
just from, and he seems like a genuine film fan as well. Like, so.
Oh yeah, you can tell. I mean, like I say, the fact that he went to the festival to see Fall, you know, I'm sure he could get a screener if he really wanted to or something. You know, I'm sure he's got connections. But the fact he turned up to a festival to see it, you know, it's just nice. Yeah. Because I remember Shaun of the Dead premiered in FrightFest back in the day when it was first released, all those years ago. At the Prince Charles Cinema, yeah, which is one of Edgar Wright's favorite cinemas.
That's amazing.
Obviously, back when he was kind of starting out, because I mean, Shaun of the Dead was one of his much earlier films. So, yeah,
that's so cool though. So it was you've been to FrightFest before though, hadn't you?
I have, yeah. So I've done it 3 times in person and then 1 virtual when the pandemic hit. So I've done a fair amount, but I want to make it like a regular thing for sure.
Yeah, I know me and Andy are definitely keen to get to one soon. Well, the next one. Just because we've covered FrightFest. I can never say it. FrightFest Glasgow, FlightFest.
Yeah.
And we've covered this year's, and this has been our first experience, you know, with FrightFest. So we've really enjoyed it, and we really want to do more of it. So, we're really keen to get there again. How did this year compare to previous years? Would you say?
I mean, this year I only had a weekend pass, so I only had 2 days. Because you can do the full 5 days if you want. It was just, you know, life is expensive, guys. So, you know, I had to just do 2 days. But you know, I crammed a lot into those 2 days. Saw a lot of good films, and it's good that the festival gives you that flexibility though. Like, you can buy the full ticket, you can buy individual films, you can buy like a weekend pass, like a Saturday, Sunday. So it's quite flexible.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
I think it's very accessible for that kind of thing.
You didn't get any problems with like booking seats, because I know a lot of the screens sold out.
No, so when you get your pass, I mean, I can go get my pass actually, because you've got the video and show it off. It's got my seat number on it. Hang on.
Oh wow. Let's see the actual pass.
So when you book it, when you book this, my Monday pass, which was my favorite day. This is the pass.
Sweet.
And then
very nice.
Lucy F31. So that's the seat you're in for the entire festival. Basically, that's your seat. So obviously,
I see.
Obviously, when it has sold out, it means people can't then just come in as latecomers or something. So when you book on the system, you select your own seat, like as you would to book a normal film.
Yeah.
And then that's your seat. Yeah, that's your seat for the main screen. Yeah.
Nice.
Which is cool.
So I'm assuming like all the screenings you went to were full up. Is that pretty much?
Mostly. I mean, the main screen gets very busy. I mean, the Cineworld in Leicester Square has the IMAX and the super screen. So obviously that's 2 very big screens. Usually at least one of those sells out. But, you know, I mean, that's quite a big capacity. But for something like Fall or Terrifier or any, you know, the Dario Argento film, I know did very well. There's a huge turnout for that. But I think if you don't want to see things on the main screen, there are sort of small screens too that you can go off and have a look at. So that there's a lot of variety, lots of independent stuff, lots of shorts, you know.
Yeah,
so,
there were lots of shorts, but I know you saw some shorts.
I did.
I think I saw one short in the end. Yeah, it definitely got to a point where I'd consumed a lot. I've consumed a lot of films, and I was a bit like, I think I just need maybe just one day break.
I think the only downside, as with any festival, as I'm sure you know, is that there's so much choice and you can't be in 2 places at once. So unfortunately, you do have to look at the timetable and go, right, which one do I want to watch? Which one do I want to watch over the other one? And that can be, when there's a clash, you're like, oh no. But I had to make that decision sometimes. Yeah, it was quite difficult.
Yeah, like with bands at a festival, isn't it? When you see those clashes, you're like, oh,
exactly,
God,
exactly.
How can I do?
You can't do both.
Do both.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, as I mentioned with Andy, I definitely got a bit of FOMO. I was a bit like, oh, it looks so good. Look at the stairs and look at the screens, and everyone's having fun and everyone's meeting each other.
They really went all out this year. I mean, they always do, but I don't know if you know, but they're opening the Saw escape room later this year in London.
Okay.
So they'd partnered with FrightFest, and they had this big banner of like sort of Billy on the big screen, and like, you know, kind of the promo for the experience, and Billy the puppet was there, and just little things like that, just, you know, just to make you feel
the real
like
Billy the puppet, the real life Billy the puppet.
real guy. Yeah.
The real guy.
He was on his little tricycle, posing for photos.
He just waltzed in, put a load of traps on people's heads, and left. Got the hell out of there.
Yeah,
see you later, Billy.
It's quite jarring when you walk in and the first thing you see is this massive fucking puppet face. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
But it's great. And the people are great. You know, I feel like we always have this joke where we know people's Twitter handles above their actual names. So, you know, you kind of, you introduce yourself like, hi, I'm at whatever. And then you probably know them. But I think, you know, even if you are a newcomer, like, because I was a newcomer back in the day, like, everyone's so nice. You're going to meet people because everyone's there for the same thing, you know. And I think it's a very chill festival. Like, I think horror fans are, you know, despite the stuff that we watch, are fairly chill people.
Oh, yeah,
so
definitely. I completely agree.
It's a great place,
yeah. So, of course.
You should definitely come. Nice to see you.
Yeah, I'm really, really keen to come. So next year, and you know, hopefully we'll cover all the movies on the podcast as well. Let's do it. Me and Andy, we're gonna have to get official Horror Hangout t-shirts to wear. So then again, people won't worry about not knowing who you are. Yeah. Maybe get a Twitter handle on your t-shirt.
Like, have a little name badge. Yeah.
That might be one step too far. So just me and Andy, we ended our discussion of all of the films that we'd seen. We ended it on the film that closed the festival. So I thought it probably would be a good idea to discuss that one with you first. And that movie is Fall, which I understand you saw on a massive screen, right?
Yeah. Very big screen.
And I'm assuming you weren't sat like right there. You were a bit further back. You didn't feel
I was F, so I was a fair bit, but I was close enough. You know, it's quite a jarring experience to be up there with the screen that's like huge.
Mahoosive. And obviously this is like more suspense / thriller than horror, but I guess, you know, being scared of heights is a horror in itself, so it does still fit into that genre. Me and Andy, we pretty much enjoyed it. I think we enjoyed it for what it was. It was very reminiscent of certain films, you know, where someone's stuck somewhere needing to survive. So I guess like 127 Hours, or I think Andy mentioned Frozen, the ski lift one, and there was a film that showed at FrightFest Glasgow as well called The Ledge, which I think had a bit.
The Ledge, yeah.
Yeah, a few similarities, but yeah. Did you enjoy it?
I had a blast with it. I thought it was great fun for what it was. And I just think, you know, ultimately you're going to watch two people get stuck on a tower. That's why you're there.
Two people stuck up a massive pole. What are you doing out there? Get down, for God's sake.
I mean, it's ridiculous but maybe it's because I'm not a thrill seeker at all. Like, I'm not an adrenaline junkie. So the fact that they're basically like, you know, we're going to reconcile as friends by climbing a 2,000-foot tower, I'd be like, come on, let's go to the pub. Like, why we're doing this? Like, so stupid, you know what I mean?
It's going to put more pressure on the friendship. I don't know about you, but if I'm in any scenario like that, I'm probably like a really miserable, angry, short-tempered bastard. I'm just like, what are we doing up here? Get me down.
Literally. But yeah, no, I think, you know, visually it's fantastic. You know, there's a lot of very vertigo-inducing shots. It does feel very convincing. You know, you have like when they get up there, you know, there's the wobbling of the tower. It's all very unnerving. It's all very.
You can almost really feel it. Yeah.
It's, you know, it's exactly what you think it's going to be. Lots of horrible shots like that. Some surprisingly gory moments as the film progresses as well. Yeah. For what it was, I thought it was a very solid like survival movie. You know, I'm a big fan of things like, you know, like you say, 127 Hours or Buried or something like that. You know, I think anything where someone's trapped or in a perilous situation, like The Shallows. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we did mention The Shallows as well as one of those films, because I think on paper, as a plot device, or, you know, as a story, it seems like, oh well, you know, that's going to be pretty boring, or what could possibly happen during those 90 minutes to keep us engaged. And, you know, it throws so many different things at us: vultures, a drone, a bloke and a dog, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, a cheating dead boyfriend. That's a spoiler, sorry. But yeah, I think that's kind of in the synopsis, isn't it?
The film sort of implies that, you know. I think if I was going to nitpick it, you know, fine well something's going on between those two girls. Like, you know, fine well, and there's going to be a revelation, and it's probably that she was shagging her, you know, husband.
Yeah,
it's pretty heavily implied. So
yeah, it's pretty heavily implied, and I don't think that kind of, it didn't affect things too much. You just kind of saw it coming. You kind of felt.
No, I think it increases the peril, really, because it increases the tension between the two, and they're already stuck up there. So obviously, in a scenario like that, you would probably attempt to walk away from that person and be like, I can't deal with this. That's not an option when you're stuck up there.
I'm going down to the next bit of the poll. All right.
I'm just going to not talk to you. Yeah.
Back to back. Of all the times you want to take a parachute, eh?
Right.
I did kind of think so. Even though there is a revelation of sorts, there is also a kind of twist, and I won't mention what the twist is, but there's like a twist moment, and I don't know how I felt about that. I don't know if I felt like it needed it. I don't know how you think.
I quite liked it, obviously, to keep it vague for the sake of people who haven't seen it. I think as a sort of, you know, progression from the second act into the third, and, you know, kind of completely forgotten the characters' names. Like, I wrote a review about them, and I kept saying their names, and I forgot the names.
One's called Hunter, and one's called
Becky. Is it Becky, the dark-haired one?
Yeah, possibly.
Right, Becky. We'll say Becky. I think it's Becky. Anywho, I think especially for those two, we had to sort of, like, you know, have a sort of character development there, and I think that the twist you're referring to does further that development, if that makes sense. For me, like, again, keeping it vague because I don't want to just be like, here's what's happened, but, you know, you'll know what I mean when you see it, I think, and whether or not you agree or disagree, that's kind of how I felt. I just felt that it kind of was a natural progression to the climactic moment of the film, which I mean, some people might watch it and be like, oh, lame, but, you know, I quite liked it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the most unique thing in a film like this. We've seen it done probably a half a dozen times, but at the same time, it wasn't like, it didn't completely derail the movie, did it?
No, and I think, you know, like you say, in survival movies, this kind of thing often happens. I mean, people might be smart and be able to figure out what we're referring to, but sometimes characters do experience that.
Yeah, I guess, like, one thing you could mention is The Descent in that way, even though some endings are considered canonical because one's British and one's
because
American. Is that right?
they reshot it for the sequel, didn't they? That bullshit sequel. They should have kept the original ending, which was
I completely forgot about the sequel.
Far superior to the remake of the US shoot of the Descent ending, because the second ending makes no sense in my opinion. I think it's stupid.
Yeah.
So
I completely forgot about the sequel until fairly recently.
Dire.
I don't remember anything about it. I guess people just go into the cave after the people who've already gone in, in the first one. Is that
pretty much. I mean, I assume most people listening have seen it, but it's basically one of the characters in the first comes back for the second.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's really lame.
Do you want to come back down into that horrible cave
where you nearly died?
full of horrible goblins. Well, not goblins, but, you know, full of horrible golems. Yeah, I'll come down. Pitch black
no bother. No bother. Yeah, stupid. But I do think Fall utilised that particular narrative piece quite well. But like I say, some people might disagree. For me, it was a nice sort of, oh, cool, you know.
I think just like the fact that the performances were good kind of elevated it beyond something, because I think sometimes, and I'm not casting any shadow of doubt over any filmmaker who's had a film screened at FrightFest, but sometimes when a film does suffer from not having great performances, it can be an unbelievably good concept in terms of a film, but when those performances don't hit home, it completely ruins like the film. So something like this, the fact that performances were good really did help.
Yeah, I think for me, especially with horror films, I need to have strong feelings for a character one way or the other, whether I hate them or whether I actually quite like them. And I think if I have any kind of neutrality towards a character, it kind of takes me out of the situation. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think, especially like, they have the classic slasher setup where you have like that one obnoxious one that everyone fucking hates. But you know what I mean? You get engaged with it. And I think, if there are flat characters, especially with a film that relies heavily on two main characters, if any of those two weren't as strong, it would have suffered greatly, I think, yeah.
Yeah. So there we go. That was full and a nice surprise, I think, especially from the trailer. I kind of thought, looking forward to watching this. It looks really tense. So yeah, glad it lived up to the hype, and especially being a closing film, you've kind of got to.
There's a lot of pressure. I think if you're either the opener or the closer, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You got to land. Mm-hmm.
So the next film I've got down that you saw after that, the films that you've seen that me and Andy didn't see.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try. I've never said this word out loud. I'm about to say it out loud. Is it just Hazard?
It's Hazard, yeah.
Hazard. I don't have to go H4Z4RD. So Hazard is, this is directed by Jonas Goviertz, stars Tom Vermeer, Jennifer Halen, Frank Lamars. It's a Belgian film. This was his international premiere. Noah Hazard can't imagine life without his gold-colored sports car. To his little girl, it's a cozy carriage. To his girlfriend Leah, a handy taxi. Just trying to cut to the chase here. When a heist organized by Carlos goes completely wrong, it's up to Noah to make his beloved Lexus doesn't end up as his own hearse.
Yeah.
So, Death Race 2022, Fast and Furious turbocharged splatter action movie of the year. I'm assuming some kind of action horror film with a car.
Yes, so the title with the 4s in it obviously refers to like a number plate, like a custom number plate.
I got it. I didn't get that until just then. Even from the poster.
Just for the benefit of like, if people are kind of like, what are they talking about? That's what it is. It's a number plate.
Because on the poster, the guy's like holding a spoiler in his hand, and I was like, what is that? It looks like a set of Buzz Lightyear's little wings that pop out.
It's a very cool little poster, because when you come in and sit down, if you've never done FrightFest before, they kind of have like, the poster, and they'll have like, here's a title, it's the world premiere or whatever, so you can look at the poster, and they had like the guy with the spoiler and the little sort of subheading was spoiler alert, and I was like,
yes. Oh yeah.
It was really a really nice little poster.
That's good.
And you kind of don't know what to expect, because you look at that and you go, what the fuck's going on? And there's a wolf in the background, for example, like it's all mental, but it really just alludes to chaotic, heist gone wrong film. It's not scary. Not a lot of the ones I saw were kind of quote unquote scary, but in terms of visceral, bloody, bit of gore, it's definitely
violence
there.
And stuff, yeah.
Hyper violence.
So how did you find this one? Did you enjoy this? Was this?
I loved it. It was quite a divisive one, I think, because with FrightFest, they pick up a lot of different titles, and sometimes it's not going to hit for everybody. They pick, they do sci-fi sometimes, a bit of fantasy, bit of crime thrillery stuff. Like as long as it's got some kind of horror element to it,
it's like horror adjacent kind of suddenly, isn't it? It's
pretty much. So if people are looking for a straight horror, you're obviously not going to get it here. It is funny. It's a funny film. It has some pretty horrifying moments in it. There's a lot of sort of like Chekhov's gun moments, like with the wolf. I'm not going to say too much about what happens with it, but when they start talking about the wolf, it builds to something, put it that way. And it's just daft. It's sort of like you're looking at this pristine car, and it's going to get absolutely fucked up by the end of the film. Like, it's going to get destroyed. And you're just sort of waiting for the chaos to hit. I try to compare if you were at FrightFest last year, there was a Kazakhstan kind of horror caper film called Sweet You Won't Believe It, which was my favorite from the festival. which was basically like guys go on a lad's trip and it goes wrong. It's kind of Carry On-esque because it's kind of like daft in its execution, a little bit silly, a little bit sort of what the fuck's going on, but it's a lot of fun. The soundtrack's banging. It's like 90s rave music. It's pretty great.
Oh yes, someone's made a comment saying if you love Euro techno, you'll get some mileage out of this. Wow.
Yeah, it's a hard one to explain without spoiling it, but I do think if you just want a silly, slightly gory, slightly cringe film, then I would definitely recommend it. The performances were great. I think it was the lead actor. It was his first feature film, like debut. He's done like kind of cameo, so it was his first like lead role.
Dimitri Vegas. I mean, that is a great
Dimitri
name.
Vegas. Yeah. So he liked my little review on Twitter. I was like, thanks, mate.
Cheers, Dimitri.
Yeah, so it's one of those like I say, really hard to explain. Not straight horror, but I would definitely recommend giving it a go. It's going to be quite polarizing, this one, I think.
Yeah. So in terms of like recommend it for fans of, someone's written down for fans of Crank.
Oh yeah.
Is that a good one?
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think what else they could.
Sort of like seems like over the top kind of. And you don't get many horrors where like cars are used all that exclusively. I know Death Race 2000 is. I think it's a lot of people consider that a horror movie. And I guess like Christine, because cars are great weapons.
Yeah.
It sounds like I'm talking from experience. I'm not. I've got no points on my license.
It's kind of very much, I'm trying to kind of describe it. It's like man is just trying to live his life in his fancy car, and everything that could possibly goes wrong.
Yeah.
On that fateful day. One of those.
on a fateful day.
Yeah.
Bless him.
He just wants to buy but his car. It's not happening.
That sounds good though, and it sounds unique. When
it is
when a film like appears on a festival like this, and there's not much else on the lineup of the festival, it does kind of make it feel kind of special.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to another film you saw, Lucy, Wolf Manor, directed by Dominic Brunt, with James Fleet, Jay Taylor, Nikki Evans, Rupert Proctor. This is a British film. This was its world premiere. So it's a splatter horror comedy about the shooting of a low-budget vampire movie in an old abandoned house deep in darkest Shropshire. The full moon is bright in the night sky and a nightmare begins. I guess some sort of werewolf caper.
Yeah, so the one behind this is they're basically shooting a movie in this manor house that they've rented out. One.
There's a lot of like sort of meta stuff at FrightFest. It seems there was like
there is.
Andy saw one which there was like the one Everybody Dies by the End, which is kind of like a documentary shoot one, and there's sort of like a French remake of One Cut of the Dead, then the End Zone and the Once and Future Smash. Like loads of meta stuff happening. It seems meta's back with a bang.
Yeah, and I appreciate what it was trying to do. Wolf Manor. It's very much sort of crew shooting in a manor house. They have an obnoxious lead actor who's a bit of an alcoholic, bit of a twat. The director's kind of full of himself. All the tropes of a stereotypical film shoot. And then they begin to get terrorized by a werewolf, as you said, which is essentially the basic premise of the film. There's not really a lot else to say about it, and that was kind of my problem. A lot of the characters existed just to die, I think, which is fine, but you kind of want a bit more sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Like unless they're killing them off well, unless they're doing something like where it's a set piece, but you don't really get any. Like for example, Saw. They have a lot of disposable characters, like for example, the opening moments of most Saw films is someone in a trap, and then they usually die. Or escape or whatever, but at least it sets up some kind of set piece, whereas this was just flat for me. It was just sort of Wolf goes around ripping people up. You're like, okay, nothing that groundbreaking. I hate to say it, but it did get a lot of laughs in my screening, so I might be in the minority because it is it is funny, like it, because they are parodying like the film crew and how tedious it is to make a film. So they have jokes like that, but it didn't really land for me, sadly.
So there were jokes that were supposed to be jokes. It wasn't like people were laughing.
Oh yeah. Sorry, yeah. So it was, I think if you work in the industry, or if you're a producer or a director or something, perhaps you get more out of it than I would, because I think a lot of it was centered towards people that work in that kind of line of work.
I see.
You know, like, kind of can relate kind of humor, you know.
Are you a fan of werewolf movies in general?
It's not my favorite, no. I mean, I like things like an American Werewolf in London, obviously. I mean, who doesn't? You know, and I like things like that, and I like. I can't really, off the top of my head, think of any massive ones that I've really enjoyed. I don't know.
It's one of those things.
More vampires, I think.
I always think with movie monsters, werewolves are difficult to get right because the effects have got to be really good. Now, this werewolf, I've seen some screenshots, looks pretty good. However, I've seen some comments saying looks good until you see a full shot of it. And
yes.
Then maybe not so much.
Yeah. So at the festival, quite cute, when the director introduced the film, the werewolf came in. So he was there in his full getup.
Oh my God, seriously?
Yeah. And I think he was just sat watching the film, and he must have been bloody hot, because it was hot in London that weekend.
Wow.
But he had his full. You'll probably find pictures on Twitter somewhere. But yeah, I think once you've seen it in person and then you see it on the screen, you're like, this looks a bit cheap. Yeah.
So I guess if you saw it before you even saw the movie, that maybe took you out of it a little bit as well. Because
I think so. Yeah.
With films like this, it's kind of like this what you don't see, isn't it? When you do see, if he's just sat there having a regular popcorn and a bag of Revels, you might just be like, well,
I kind of wish they'd brought him on afterwards, you know, once we'd seen the film, like with the Q&A bit. Yeah, again, might be in the minority. It did get laughs. People seem to engage with it. But I'm with you on the monster movie thing. I think keep them hidden, keep them mysterious. It's why Jaws works so well, for example. You know, I think if you build to the villain, it's just a lot more exciting. But there's not a lot to say about Wolf Manor without spoiling it. But like I say, a lot of the characters just felt like they existed to simply die, and I just found that a bit like, all right.
I mean, yeah, it sounds like a fairly generic sort of movie. I guess the setup's is fairly unique for a werewolf movie, but at least it had werewolves, you know. The movie Burial, which I also saw from FrightFest, hinted at there being werewolves, and yes, spoiler alert, no werewolves. So that was a bit, at least you saw one, you know.
Yeah, I didn't catch Burial actually, no. But
yeah. So I guess if it takes place just in a single house and there's a werewolf, maybe recommend it for fans of Dog Soldiers, but I guess nowhere near as effective as that. But still, if you like that, you might get some kicks.
Yeah, I think if you like any kind of home invasion, kind of, you know, cat and mouse, maybe kind of style, maybe if that's your kind of thing, maybe if you like watching people get picked off one by one, maybe. But it's not anything particularly groundbreaking, but for me anyway.
Yeah. No, I totally understand. Okay. So moving on from that, what is the next thing I've got down that you've seen? Oh, I was going to say Barbarian, but did we talk about that yet? That feels like something we should maybe save. Let's talk about Walking Against the Rain.
Yeah, Walking Against the Rain is a nice one. Yeah.
So directed by Scott Lias, with Sophia Alini, Reese Douglas, James Swanton, Johnny Vivash, UK movie. This is its world premiere. Two strangers, Blair and Tommy, are navigating their way across a barren landscape in an attempt to find each other with their only form of communication, two soon-to-die battery-operated radio microphones, and a new evil in the shape of the Forsaken tracking them down. They must learn to confront loss and rediscover a trust in humanity. So looks apocalyptic monster road movie. Is that a good description?
Pretty much. I think anybody who does love a post-apocalyptic film will probably get a lot out of this. It's a very, very intimate film, very slow burny, very character driven. And I think that's why, if for example, if we're going to compare, say, Wolf Manor, you know, I think as a difference, you know, that there's a lot of character development in this as opposed to people just getting picked off. So it's a fairly small cast in the sense that Fall is as well. You know, you've got like two main characters, you've got like the evil, and then you have Johnny's character that you run into later on, and that's about the extent of it. As as with most apocalyptic movies, there's not a lot of characters because there's no one left.
Yeah.
It's a lovely film in the sense that it appeals to horror fans, but Scott Lias, he's actually been a connection of mine for a while because I reviewed his short film Black Mass, which was about sort of, it was his way of sort of personifying depression and grief, and without spoiling it too much, but it's a theme that Scott tends to have in his films. So isolation, grief, depression, that kind of thing, and mental illness is a big focus for him. So Walking Against the Rain, sort of these two people have a chance encounter via walkie-talkie and kind of share how they got where they are, essentially, and what life was like before, you know, whatever happened. And it's definitely, again, not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And I did get some negative feedback from this film at FrightFest, you know, like, oh, it wasn't my thing, it was too slow, it was whatever. But I think if you do love, you know, special effects, you know, especially monsters, like James Swanton, he's known for, you know, being in like Host, and he basically just plays monsters. That's his entire jam. It's amazing. Like his entire filmography is just monsters. It's great. So if you like sort of that kind of thing.
What's his name? Doug Jones, I guess.
Doug Jones, exactly. Yes, exactly like Doug Jones. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a great film. Like again, not to spoil anything, but slow burn, has a fantastic ending. When you see it, I hope you like it.
Oh, nice.
And it's a film that was special for me because there's a lot of people that I like are involved in the film, and they haven't paid me, just disclaimer. I genuinely like the film.
So
I know Johnny Vivash quite well. He's an Irish actor, great guy. So he plays a character that one of the two leads runs into, and he has quite a heartfelt scene. It's just it's a lovely, special little British project, quite indie, quite, you know, it was on the smaller screen, but it was a sold out Prince Charles screen, and it was great. Nice. And it's just nice to champion little people, you know, little productions.
Yeah, of course. I heard a lot of good things about this. This was one that I was probably keen to see, and I would still like to see. Can you talk much about what The Forsaken is?
You don't know much about The Forsaken, which I guess is kind of cool, because I love a sort of how did we get here movie. I think it's why I quite, you know, like, as I've mentioned, my favorite video game is Fallout. You kind of just encounter these people and these things, and you kind of like, what the fuck's going on?
What the hell is that?
It's just, and I guess like I haven't played The Last of Us, but I guess like I guess with that it's a bit of a mystery too, right? Like you just sort of like what's really going on, I guess.
Yeah.
So sometimes you don't need to know.
Yeah, there's definitely some beasties in The Last of Us. Really, like, I don't know how you came about, but
yeah,
is that kind of like what it is? Like, then you're not really sure.
Yeah, you just know that the world has created these things, and you kind of have to learn to just avoid them because all they want to do is kill.
I like that though. I like it when you haven't got rhyme or reason behind something. You know, this is what caused this. This is why this is happening, and all that stuff.
I guess because you're so close to the characters throughout the film, you're under the assumption that they don't really know either. So, like, you know, if you woke up in that scenario, for example, you wouldn't really stop to check why they're doing that. You would just run. Do you know what I mean? You'd be like, no, fuck this. You know, like, you wouldn't care where they came from. You just know that they're dangerous, if that makes sense.
Excuse me, can you just tell me where you've come from and how you came to be?
Yeah, what's your origin story? While they're trying to like claw at you.
Before you claw my face off.
Yeah, so I guess again, I don't really want to ruin too much, but I do think that the lack of context in certain scenarios does help this film, because you just feel like you're kind of, you know, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this. I've kind of lost the plot here. you're sort of ignorant with them, I guess, if that's what I'm trying to say. You're kind of blindsided by it all.
I mean, a few choice reviews here. A slow burn with great moments. Kick-ass score. Apparently as well.
Oh, my friend Mitch Bain did the score, so yeah, he's great.
Wow, okay. What kind of score is it? Is it like orchestral? Is it electronic? Or
Mitch is mainly electronic, yeah.
Yeah.
So quite ominous.
Lovely. Sounds good. Great road trip monster movie. This sounds good. I guess recommended. We've already mentioned Fallout and The Last of Us. Maybe if you like some of those games, you might like this. Again, I'm just throwing things out there. I've not seen it. The Road. potentially.
Oh, The Road's a great example. Yes. Yep. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The Road. Thinking of other sort of post-apocalyptic walking.
I mean, there's
along
so many of
movies.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a genre in itself. But yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great as well. And then the next film before we talk about, if we say Barbarian to last, because I think that was quite a big one as well, wasn't it? The next one is Stalker, directed by Steve Johnson, with Sophie Skelton, Stuart Brennan, and Bret Hart. What, as in the WWE?
That's right.
The actual
Surprise!
I get what, for real?
Yeah.
But for real, I'm so confused.
Yeah.
This is the British film as well. This was a world premiere. Rose is a young actor working in horror movies. See again, meta, all the meta stuff. Returns to her empty hotel, forced to use the old freight elevator. She gets trapped with an unusual stranger.
Yes.
Okay, right. I'm pretty much only interested now in what Bret Hart's doing in this film. Is he the Stalker?
No, I hate to disappoint you. It's a fairly minor role, but
okay.
So Sophie and the guy. Oh my god, that's terrible.
Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart. Yes.
Yeah.
Those two are the ones you focus on. Yes. I also got distracted by Brett. Well, my brain was just going Brett. Yeah. But yeah. Sophie and Stuart are the two main ones, and there is a theme here. You know, I think there's a lot of films in this festival where we're quite intimate. We don't have a lot of characters. We're sort of in with them.
I guess
so
it's
I think,
it's like a budget thing, isn't it? Especially with sort of films that are up and coming and first features and things like that.
And I think with horror, it can work very well. Like Fall, I wasn't scared of heights until I watched Fall. I mean, I am now. But one of my big fears is elevators, lifts breaking down, or closed spaces. So for me, I was like, so that's my kind of fear, you know. But I loved it because I love being sort of in and just like, oh, this is kind of spooky, this is cool, you know. So I mean, obvious examples for this one, you know, Devil is a good one. Oh, if you've seen Devil, there's a film. I don't know if you've like a niche horror film literally called Elevator, which is actually quite good as well. So anything like that, you know, it's the same kind of thing. Now, this is a great film. The writer of it, I'd followed on Twitter for like 6 years, and we finally met at FrightFest.
Oh, wow, okay.
Chris Watt. This is one of his films. It's a very good script. Again, no one's paid me, just full disclosure. I loved it. There's no nepotism here. I did love it. I think that it's very dialogue heavy, very sort of performance driven. You spend most of your time in the elevator. So you're not, again, it's not action packed. It's not, you know, all guns blazing. It's very intimate. A lot of the films this festival were, but most of them succeeded in that. It's great. Great little cat and mouse thing. Quite eerie, quite disturbing. You're not really sure what's going to happen next. The less I say, the better. But Chris was delighted that they got an 18 rated certificate for the film. So, which not a lot of films do, because I think in this day and age, you have to really go all out to get an 18. You have to do something.
Nice little badge of honor,
so
though, isn't it?
He was very happy that it got R rated. It's a very uncomfortable film, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds good. And again, like, single location or mostly single location films can be really effective. What was Bret Hart? Was he just there just as they were getting in the lift and he went, all right, and they went, oh, all right, Bret?
He's basically affiliated with Sophie's character. So again, the problem with Stalker is I don't want to tell you too much, because you kind of learn things as the film progresses. So my advice would be, I don't know if they have a trailer, but like, don't even watch a trailer. Just go in and just watch it. And just let it unfold, because, you know, it kind of builds to this like amazing crescendo. But I think ignorance is bliss for this one. Yeah, like, just don't read anything about it. Like, that synopsis you gave is all you need to know. That's it.
Yeah. So a couple of choice reviews here. An intense and claustrophobic thriller that spins gender norms on their head more than once. A gripping tale that have you rethinking not taking the stairs. Depends how many floors it is, doesn't it? Because I always think, don't know where you stand on this, Lucy, but I always think 2 floors, I'm always taking the stairs. Free, most of the time I think I'll probably take the lift. But free, I've been known to take the stairs with free and more. But I think if it's one floor, never ever.
No, that's not okay.
It's never happening.
I try to avoid lifts, especially if I'm on my own, because I don't like them.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've got no choice. So, for example, like if I'm going on holiday somewhere or I'm getting the train and I've got a big suitcase, I have to get a lift, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's like the platform level of the tube, and I'm just sat there like, am I going to be stuck on the underground? Like, it's not great.
I haven't got a fear of like getting stuck so much. I always feel about it just dropping, just like out of nowhere, just randomly dropping. Or especially like, the doors open and as you're leaving, I've obviously seen too many horror films and I've people getting their heads chopped off and getting crushed by it. I was worried that like as you cross the threshold of the lift onto the floor, it will like drop at that moment and just like split you in half.
Yeah,
that's my fear, my irrational fear.
Lifts are a weird one. I think it's because it's basically a big metal contraption that moves you up and down.
Yeah,
like it's creepy, and I think
and you are essentially locked in for like a number of seconds. You're locked in.
I'm really kicking myself. Like, and this is a bit of a tangent, sorry, but my partner and I are going to Disney World next year, and they have Tower of Terror, the big fucking thing where they drop you, and it's meant to be an elevator shaft. I've agreed to go on this fucking thing, right? And like, I don't like elevators, so I love a drop ride, but I'm like, it had to be an elevator, didn't it? For fuck's sake! But yeah.
Do you even get like strapped in on that, or are you just like standing in an elevator essentially?
You're strapped because it's like a drop ride, but
got you.
Basically, they randomize how many times they drop you. Could be 1, could be like 10.
That's insane.
So I'm like,
that's terrifying.
And yeah, it's daft because obviously it's like a family-friendly theme park, and I'm just like, oh god, it's so scary. But like, it's the only ride I'm really scared of. I think that one, but
yeah, it's that drop feeling in your stomach. I think is just it's not very pleasant.
We're not as humans supposed to be doing that, really, are we? I mean, like you can feel your stomach move, like you say. It's not great.
Yeah, it's not nice. But yeah, I'm sure you have fun regardless of that ride.
I just hope I'm not trapped in with my stalker or anything like that,
Yeah,
that wouldn't be very nice.
That wouldn't be nice. That's not a good way to spend any sort of holiday.
No, but I think if you are scared of elevators, I would, and you're comfortable watching this kind of thing, I would certainly recommend Stalker. Yeah,
scared of elevators, and if you like Devil, as you mentioned, and then the other one was just a movie called Elevator. I've not seen that, but
yeah, it's more of a low budget one, but I quite enjoyed it. I mean, I'm trying to think of any other sort of claustrophobic. I mean, I guess phone booth. I guess if you want to think about closed in spaces like that, anything like that, or even The Descent, just anything like that, really.
I watched Phone Booth a few months ago.
It's brilliant.
It's the perfect time capsule of like early 2000s technology that you could ever want to watch. Like mobile phones and pagers and phone booths and just everything like that. It's a great thriller as well. Okay.
Yeah.
So last up, no, this wasn't the last film you saw because you saw Fall, didn't you? So but the last one that we're going to discuss with you today is the movie Barbarian, which you watched, sat next to Edgar, right?
No, that was Fall.
That was Fall. I'm pretty sure he watched Barbarian as well, didn't he?
He might have, but I only saw him during Fall, so I don't know.
Maybe I've got that wrong, but I swear I saw on Twitter somewhere someone said that he was there for Barbarian as well. I don't know.
Yeah, you might. It's a big screen. He might have been.
This was one that I was quite keen to see because I'd heard some interest in some good things, and it's got a decent cast and obviously Justin Long, who is always great. But yeah, so Barbarian is directed by Zach Kreger with Georgina Campbell, Bill Skarsgård, Justin Long. It's a US movie, but this is UK premiere. I don't know if is it out anywhere? Is it out in the US? I don't even know.
I don't know, but I do know that they did embargo reviews on it at the time of us being at FrightFest. So I don't exactly know how widely it's out at the moment.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I've seen the trailer. So
Mhm.
in time for a job interview, a young woman arrives at her Airbnb late one night to find that it's been mistakenly double booked. Oh dear. And a strange man is already staying there. Against her better judgment, she stays the night anyway. I mean, it wouldn't happen, would it? You wouldn't go, actually, you know what? Let's just agree to spend the night together. But I guess, yeah, you could
Mm.
tell us more about this.
I did not like it at all.
Oh, okay.
And everyone's going to get the pitchforks out and be like, why? Okay.
Well, I've not seen it, so I can't one way or another.
Because it's been universally praised by people.
Okay,
and I'm trying to get my head around why. So the opening bit, the first scene, the first sort of thing is great.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has fantastic sort of tension. It has a really good scary moment. It's very creepy. And then for me, it starts to lose its sense of direction after we've kind of ended that particular opener. Because for me, the film doesn't really know what it's doing after that point.
Got you.
And it starts to sort of branch out into lots of different storylines that I just didn't feel had the pacing that I was hoping from the film.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns into a different film than the synopsis suggests it should be. But some people have liked the sort of the shock and the blindsidedness of it and the, oh, weren't expecting that. For me, it's just too off the wall. I don't think it was a badly made film. I think the effects were good, the performances were good, the scares are good. But did I enjoy it? No. And that's really sad. But I can see why people would. I can, if you wanted to go on a batshit crazy, don't know what the hell is going to happen next roller coaster ride that wasn't really as the film was advertised, then you're probably going to get that. But for me, it just didn't stick the landing. And I probably look devastated because I am. Like I wanted to love it so much. And like people are going to disagree. I know they are, and that's absolutely fine. But unfortunately, you can't love them all.
No.
For me, second to Wolf Manor was probably the weakest one that I saw, unfortunately. And that really sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it is a shame. It's disappointing, but was it? I'm just trying to think of what I can say without spoiling things too much. Again, just because I don't know as well. Was it a single location sort of thing as well, like some of the other films?
Mostly, but
in an Airbnb.
This is the thing. I'm going to try and be vague, but it should have been. But because it deviates from the one location, I think that ruined the pacing a bit.
Got you.
Because it tries to go down a couple of other character arcs and narratives while the Airbnb is at the center.
Yeah.
And for me, that took away from the scariness of being inside the Airbnb. I think it would have worked a lot better if you spent most of your time, if not all, in that room, to be honest. Again, some people might have liked the change of pace, but for me, it just I love being locked in somewhere when I watch a film, especially one like this. And the way it was advertised, it's, oh, she's going to be stuck in there for like ages or whatever. As it transpires, it doesn't quite work out that way. But yeah, it's you might see what I mean when you see it, but it does go in a very weird direction that I wasn't expecting. And maybe one day we could have a spoiler-filled discussion about it. But for me, it was just it didn't stick the land, and that was the main thing.
How was Bill Skarsgård?
Oh, the acting was fantastic. They were all great. They were great.
Justin Long's good as well.
Justin Long's great. Yeah, as his character is very obnoxious. He plays a very interesting character. Like I'm a big fan of him. I love Tusk. Tusk was great. It's wild.
what a film, yeah.
But you get, what you're going into with Tusk. You're like, I want to see Justin Long turned into a walrus. That's what I'm here for. Whereas Barbarian, it's such a shame.
Is there a Barbarian in it? Is Conan in it?
No. Sorry to disappoint. I'd love to speak to people that love this film and sort of get an idea as to why. A lot of people at FrightFest, when I came out of it, like I didn't like it, I just sort of got a lot of looks like, what do you mean?
What? What? Who are you? Who even are you? There's a few
But,
comments though here on reviews. Someone says best going in knowing as little as possible. Love the structure. Another one says it riffed off of certain X-Files episode. Don't know. I mean,
what one that is.
There's a lot of X-Files episodes, so you know, if it's riffing off of one of them, maybe. I'll watch it and see if I can maybe work it out. A few other people were quite lukewarm on it, you know, kind of just saying it was all right, but nothing to write home about. But a lot of people saying, yeah, go in as blind as possible. I don't know if I've seen the trailer. Now, before this, I was like, yeah, I've seen the trailer, but I don't know if I have. I've been getting better at avoiding trailers recently.
I would definitely advise trying to avoid it if you can. Even as someone who didn't like it as much, I do think going in kind of not really knowing is probably the best approach, because I hadn't seen the trailer.
Going in blind.
But unfortunately, like I say, even by the synopsis alone, it kind of took a turn where I was just like,
the thing is, now I'm talking to you, it's making me want to watch the trailer just so I can find out more. See, now I'm intrigued. You know, I think something that does always intrigues me about movies is when someone says they don't like it, because it makes me go, all right, okay. Because you're not just telling me it's flat out boring, which, you know, well, we'll see. I'm definitely keen to see it as well. But then again, I'm keen to see most of the films we've discussed today. Okay, so that is all the films that you saw, Lucy, isn't it? Oh wait, no, we haven't discussed any shorts. Did you discuss?
We had a short film showcase that I went to, because I think I remember I actually saying to you and Andy, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning, that I originally said I was going to go see Terrifier 2.
Yeah.
And then I did not, because a friend of mine had a short film playing at the same time.
Yeah. Okay.
And I thought, I'm not that arsed about Terrifier, like, it's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, the short film segments, if for anybody who hasn't been to the festival or are interested in them, I would recommend it, because the amount of talent is unreal. And I bear in mind a lot of these are shot on like a shoestring, or with like a very limited production crew or cast, or you know, a lot of these people are multi-talented, like they sort of, you know, they're producer, editor, writer, sometimes actor of their own projects, and like the creativity is incredible. I loved every short that I saw. I went to the short film showcase number 3, if anybody else saw it.
So there's a few showcases throughout.
There is, like spliced in between the festival. So like if you want a bit of a sort of break, you know, it's kind of like going to watch an anthology, really. It's pretty cool, because if they just play them back to back.
Nice.
So we had all sorts. We had my mate Derry had a one in about, do you know the app Headspace, like the meditation app?
Oh yeah.
He basically did like a sort of cursed version of that. Like sort of
nice.
Like, what if meditation app evil, basically. And it was, I loved that. That was really, because I used to use those kind of apps, and I was like, well, I'm deleting them now. You know, like,
you've ruined them for me forever.
Yeah. There was one about a killer Pomeranian called Eric, which was very
Pomeranian.
Very sweet. Eric was a very good actor.
Nice one, Eric.
There was, oh gosh, I'm trying to think. There was like a sort of, oh, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, did you see Everybody Forgot?
I didn't know.
Is that
what was that one like?
Somebody? Oh wait, there. Sorry, I don't want to get it wrong. I don't know if you've got another one to mention. I can. I'm
trying to just give examples of what I saw without, like, because some of them were like literally like 2-3 minutes in length, or like so short. So I couldn't possibly give you a review because they're just too short. But they were all great. Like, there was one called Who Am I, which was basically, you know, like Guess Who, where you kind of ask like, oh, are they a boy or a girl? Do we know them? Whatever. It basically splices that children's game with a gradual reveal at the end, and it made me shit myself.
Oh no.
I love a short film that just gets me. Like, I think short is a brilliant medium for horror. I think horror really benefit. Like loads of my favorite horror films are actually shorts. So there's a one called Bedfellows, which is horrifying stuff. They just do a really good job of, like, because it's, you know, it's tension building until the last minute. It can be great. Anyway, I would certainly recommend shorts if anybody does the festival and wants a bit of a break, because they're easily accessible. The filmmakers are usually hanging around. You can talk to them, and it's just, the talent is unreal. Like, you know,
great concepts
crazy.
that, you know, could be a feature easily, but, you know, presented as a short.
A lot of features come from shorts as well. Do you know what I mean? So like, you know, you see a lot of horrors that are commissioned, and it's like based on the short film, and you're like, oh, yeah.
So the only,
Doesn't
the only
always
short
work.
film, I only saw one short film
Yeah.
from the festival, which is called Everyone Forgot, which is about a character called Lily who wakes up on her birthday and nobody seems to care about her birthday. And then she makes friends with a handyman, and then there's a slow burn, sort of like, I say slow burn, you know, it's only a 20-minute short film, but
Yeah. Oh, that's a
so
long one. None of
that
mine
is
were
a
that
long
long.
one, isn't it? Yeah, that is a
Yeah,
long one.
yeah.
And then there's a sinister reveal. I mean, I won't spoil it, but
Ooh.
very well made, starring Anwen Bull, and directed by Theo Marlowe. It was good.
It's like
It was well made,
16
well acted.
candles, but fucked up.
Exactly.
I love that.
Okay. So that was everything we saw. We are going to do a little awards thing, but let's pass back over to Ben and Andy. That's weird. Pass back over to Ben and Andy. I've heard they're all right. They're half decent, these lads. Pass back over to them. There we go then. So Lucy obviously saw films that we didn't see as well, and some of them sound good. Some of them not so much. So this is the section where we're going to do the FrightFest awards. We did this for FrightFest Glasgow. We'll get Lucy to contribute hers as well. Let's rattle through these, I guess, as well as we can.
Yeah.
First,
barely feels like I've been away, Ben. Feels like the blink of an eye since I handed over to Lucy.
the mere blink of an eye. Best fright. You got anything for me? What was the scariest moment that you?
Oh, best fright. I mean, the fall was basically an exercise in tension throughout. Yeah, that was fairly harrowing. There is a moment in Everyone Dies in the End that was when I saw it coming and then it actually happened, I clasped my hand to my mouth, but I can't say what it is without spoiling the movie because it is right at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, so I might, on the basis of not giving away a spoiler, I might put my best scares as just the horrible tension when people are hanging off the edge of things in fall.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I went for as well. Just that constant tension that you can't get away from. I mean, I can only imagine what it would be like to see it on a real big screen, because I was, yeah, it was tough.
I was watching it on a laptop and feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's probably the best fright for me. Best performance. Do you have anything down for best performance?
I've
What
got
would you
one for
say?
this one. Do keep me honest on the pronunciation of her name here. I'm going to go back to Do Not Disturb and single out the performance. Oh, it feels harsh because there are effectively two leads who are both excellent, but I think I might have to give it to Kimberly Lafayette.
Mm-hmm.
One of those. Sorry, Kimberly, if I've butchered your name in one or other way, or both, and I've managed to fail on both of them. But I hope it makes it up to hear that I think your performance, and I've watched a lot of films, as you've heard, was phenomenal. I think she plays an entire range. There's some emotional scenes, there are some comedic moments, there are some physical moments, there's some emotional delivery. Excellent, an absolute really solid range and really great convincing performances.
Lovely.
Now,
even though you just went for one and you're sorry you couldn't do two, I'm kind of going to do two. Sorry. So Laura Galan, who played Sarah in Piggy, I think I'm going to have to single out her performance because
yeah, it was a close call.
I was really engaged in it, and I think she portrayed so many emotions. And in terms of a film that had so much to say, she didn't say all that much, and I think that really shows what a good performance it was, because you felt her pain, you felt the torment, and you also felt that conflicted into the conflicted ideas that she kind of had going on as well, and the moral questions that went alongside it. And I think she portrayed all of that very, very well. But also, I'm going to give a special shout out to Mark Patton in Swallowed as well, because as soon as he turned up, he spanned the film. I mean, he changed the direction of the film completely for a positive, and he was really chewing the scenery and really going OTT in a way that didn't, like, you know, sometimes when characters turn up and do that, it can be a bit can be a bit annoying. We're like, oh, come on, all right, turn it in. We're already enjoying this. But no, it didn't. It really did elevate the movie. So shout out to Mark Patton, star of A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 as well.
Good on you, Mark.
Good on you, Mark. Okay, next up, I'm gonna go for best director in terms of the most accomplished film director-wise.
Oh, so difficult, because I think it feels like the official awards that when you have an award for best actor, it's really tempting to, that direction is part of that as well. But I'm going to try, for the purposes of being a little bit different and going and taking a different direction on this. I might give this one to, again, help me with a surname, and Carlota from Piggy. I really enjoyed this. I think there was some great direction. Again, I appreciated the mix of the comedic, but also the seriousness. And I think the work with the bullies was really effective, and it's a film that's worth thinking about. There are several films I really enjoyed for different reasons. I could have called out Final Cut. I could have, called out John Ainslie from Do Not Disturb again. Yeah, but I think I'm going to go for Carlota on this one.
I've got down Carlota Pereda as well as Carter Smith from Swallowed. I don't know why I'm giving it to Andy. I'm sorry. Just because I think those were the most accomplished sort of movies. I think they looked the best. And in terms of Piggy, I felt like it had so many different complex narrative issues that it tackled, and the horror moments that felt genuinely horror from a genuine horror film, and the horror moments that felt like they were from just like a teen drama or something like that. Really effective. And I think that film looked great as well. I love the sun-bleached sort of Texas Chainsaw Massacre style as well that went alongside it. And Carter Smith for Swallowed, just because, as obviously mentioned, being an LGBTQ sort of drama with body horror is like a really interesting take. And I think he did really well with all of the actors he had at his disposal. It was effective. So I guess with all that in mind, what is our film of the festival? Obviously, we'll loosely ask Lucy for her.
Roughly, what was your favorite film?
Roughly, what was your favorite? I mean, you could tell me. We'll have hers as well, and then we'll, I guess, at the end of the show. Sorry, maybe on our socials, we'll put out what is our film of the festival completely.
Oh, do you want to go first, Ben? Have you firmed up your answer? I might need to wrestle with this for a moment longer.
It's right. So I'll give my reason. I will decide on one, but I'll give my reasons for it. So I think Fall is like a really accomplished, tense film with a great cast, and it looks great, and it's the kind of film I would have loved to see on the big screen. It feels like a big event movie, and I am quite scared of heights, so that affected me. But for all the reasons I've previously mentioned, I think Piggy was the one. Piggy was the film that, when the list of movies that were being shown at FrightFest came out, that was the one that stood out to me, because I think I'd already seen some promo. I'd seen that it's shown at Sundance as well. So yeah, I think for that, in terms of everything that it achieved and everything I've mentioned already, I think Piggy was the one for me that really did stick with me. And it was the first one I watched of everything as well, and it's still the one I'm probably thinking about the most. So I think that means it's effective.
You know what, Ben? In many ways, you've kind of helped me, because I was wrestling with Piggy getting a mention already, but I'm going to use classic reality TV ploy here that someone else already voted for that, so I can water it down by giving a slightly different answer. I think Piggy deserves a lot of accolade. I really enjoyed it, but I think I'm gonna single out Do Not Disturb then as the one I will give my award to. Again, emotionally complex, still funny, and I'm coming away like the director John Ainslie does have a body of work and some other short films that I'm now, off the strength of seeing this and having just a little inkling of some of his previous work, I'm really hungry to go and hunt down the rest of his films and take a look at some of them, because I feel like they're going to be very much up my street. And And because you've already recognized Piggy, I think I'm not taking anything away from it being such a close call by mentioning a different movie again.
Also, I know we spoke to the directors, but I think that really does help sometimes in terms of like solidifying what their vision is.
Yeah.
And if it already resonated with you and it already affected you, hearing the director actually tell you everything that went into it and why they made certain decisions and
it gives you further appreciation for it as well, I think. So, whether that's influence or not, maybe if anything, that encourages other film directors to make sure they invest the time to come and talk to us, because at least then it will give us an even more strong impression of their movie. But yeah,
there we go.
I'd give a polite nod as well to Final Cut. I think it doesn't, like, I struggle to necessarily single it out for an award category, despite how much I enjoyed it, because I haven't seen the original to know how much of it is lifted from that. But I don't want to dismiss it either, because I can't comment until I've seen it. I think it's a phenomenally made movie. But yeah, overall, do not disturb takes the crown from me.
There we go. Let's find out what Lucy would like to.
Yeah, Lucy, what would you award those four things? It's past Andy here to you, future Lucy. Hope you're well, by the way. Hope you had a good Thursday. Yeah, let's hear what you've got.
So, did you have a best fright at FrightFest?
Yes. So, for all of its flaws, Barbarian has an excellent jump scare that really got me.
Okay.
So again, don't want to spoil when it is or what happens, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of like in that kind of screening. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a good moment. It's a good moment.
That definitely makes me want to see it more. Again, the more negative you were, the more I wanted to see it.
Hey, it was nice. I gave it an award. I didn't even like it. I gave it an award.
I don't even like you, but you can have an award.
I can appreciate what it was trying to do.
Person. Yeah. How about best performance?
Oh geez, that's a tough one, because there were some good ones.
Yeah.
Really good ones. Oh, probably gonna go.
I mean, if you want to give it to more than one.
Oh yeah.
I definitely did a bit of that.
I think Dimitri and Hazard was a very good comedic lead.
Yeah.
And also Sophie and Stalker. They're my two.
Wonderful. Obviously,
I mean, they were all great, but yeah.
Yeah. I guess, as you mentioned, Dimitri, his first like lead role as well. So that's probably why it was special. Okay. Best director.
I think it's a tough one. I'm gonna give it to Fall, because of just the way it made me feel sick. Well, it most
like this film made me feel sick.
As a direction style, as a choice of angles, as a choice of how they actually showed the scale of the bloody thing, I think it was impeccable, really.
The director, Scott Mann. Can you name any of the other? Do you know any other movies that Scott Mann has directed?
He did The Tournament, which I really enjoyed.
I was gonna. I was. You see, that's your knowledge there. I was half expecting you to say you don't know, and I was gonna give you a clue.
I put it in my review. You see, I mentioned The Tournament.
Oh yeah, of course. You've done your research.
I did my research. I did my job.
He also directed that film Final Score, which takes place at like West Ham Stadium, and Dave Bautista's like Die Hard at a football stadium, isn't it?
I forgot about that one.
Yeah. And finally, best. It's quite a short award ceremony we did, but finally, best film. Best overall film. Your pick of the festival. Pick a FrightFest.
How do I do that? That's horrible.
How do you do it? Again, if you want to go one, maybe two, if you can't decide, there are no rules here.
I think, like, I've been very nice to Fall. I love Fall. However, as a film that kept me thoroughly engaged, thoroughly guessing, and the elevator aspect of it, it's got to be Stalker, just because of how it all came together as an overall piece, how it ends, the dynamics, I think horror is a very personal thing. So because it made me scared because of the claustrophobicness, as a film, if you said to me, which one did you find the most scary, I would say Stalker because of my personal fears. I think a lot of people would say a Fall because they're scared of heights, but for me, that's kind of a new thing that the film has inflicted on me. I didn't think that I was scared of heights, but I am now.
It happens.
Yeah, so I think just based on my Indian fear of elevators and potential stalkers, Stalkers is a great film.
Potential stalkers. I think we're quite similar because I always rate the films that I'm the most scared of as my favorite horror.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just because they're the most effective, aren't they?
And the beauty of that is everyone has a different one. Everyone's got a different fear. Everyone's got a different opinion of what makes a horror film. Yeah. I don't agree with people saying it wasn't scary, so it's not a horror. That's a really lame excuse. But I do think if it does make you genuinely scared, then it's done a great job of what it was supposed to be doing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Great. Awesome. Well, there we go.
Just trying to be fair across the categories there.
Very fair. Sounds very fair to me. Okay, so thank you for joining us again, Lucy. I will put all of your social links and everything in the show notes as usual. I'm sure it won't be very long until you join us on an episode again. But for the outro's already been recorded. So let's go back to those lads, Ben and Andy, for the I think there was even a point where Andy said thanks to you. So if you want to pass over to Andy, Lucy.
All right, well, thanks very much, Andy. Over to you.
There we go. So
thanks, Lucy.
That's that. That was a lot of films to cover. I think if you were at FrightFest or you saw any of the movies from FrightFest, please tell us what your favorite film was. Please tell us what your favorite film was. If you listen to this and we didn't cover a film that you did enjoy, please tell us what that was and why we should watch it. Because we'd like to check out some more.
There's still so more I'd love to see from this. Like, I really want to see The Bunker, Walking Against the Rain,
Barbarian,
Future, Barbarian. There's still so much for us to enjoy from this FrightFest. Desperate to go next year.
And hopefully we'll have some additional interviews as well. But for now, for the time being, that is it. That's our coverage, our extensive coverage of FrightFest done. I hope you enjoyed listening. If you want to become a patron over at patreon.com/horror hangout, please do. We'd like that. Thank you very much to all of our current patrons. For the first time while recording this, I don't have the list in front of me. I feel like after covering so many movies,
can't say any more names. If you want to pull the list up, then I'll encourage these people. This is FrightFest has been. I'll be quick to add, an entirely pleasurable. There's been a great amount of movies, and it is fantastic from all of the studios that have partners with us to share screeners that allow us to talk about these movies, even to an event we were unable to travel to. So we really appreciate that. But I tell you what, listener, isn't half hard work. We've done naught but watch FrightFest movies for the best part of a month. Peek behind the curtain. It is rapidly approaching midnight on a school night for us here. I don't know about you, Ben. I'm
dedication.
My alarm's kicking off at 6:30 tomorrow. I got a little run before work tomorrow. Gonna be dead. Well. Gonna be dead tired, like that man from Commando that Arnie kills on the plane.
Dead tired. Not only that, you've got a big old cycle on Sunday as well.
Tell you what,
days away,
ever so tired. I'm lucky I've been sitting down. If I'd been standing up while recording this and watching these movies, I'd be lousy, absolutely wretched tomorrow. As it happens, I'm just going to be brain tired. Guess what? My brain is what I use in my job. It's going to be a tough day. That's all right, though. We'll make it.
You're brain tired. I'm like ear tired. I'm surprised I got so many names correct that I was reading out, because I usually struggle.
Consummate professional, Brent. I think from this, I'm certainly coming away with the news that you, at very least, are the absolute
competent,
the prince of the prince of legitimate horror journalism over here now.
The Prince of Darkness. Yeah, okay. So perfectly in time. Our patrons: John Crinnan, Ben Scaife, Stephen Christopher, Laura Kendrick, Toby Miller, Ollie Child, Leslie Carlo, Julia Bilgren, John O'Down, Nick Spill, and Pazuzu.
Yeah.
So thank you all
guys.
for your continued support. It means a lot. So also thanks to Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Please consider giving us a rating or review and head over to the Facebook group Horror Hangout Board Advisors for more. We're on Twitter at horror_hangout_. We're on Instagram at Horror Hangout Podcast. Next week is Signs to celebrate the recent 20th anniversary, and obviously the lineup for September hopefully will be out very soon on all of our social platforms as well.
Coming at you like Cleopatra. That's what it's going to be doing.
Coming at you like a shark with knees.
Yeah, right up.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other thing to say is, sorry, Ben, one more edit job. Goodbye, Lucy. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. You have to now isolate some audio over saying goodbye.
Goodbye. Thanks for joining us, Lucy. And thank you, Andy, for being a right horror dude.
Thanks to you, Ben, for being a right horror dude. And thanks to all the other right horror dudes out there as well. I use dudes in a gender neutral way, so that's fine. And
thanks to FrightFest and everybody involved in putting together what has been another successful festival year.
Yes.
Good work, everybody.
Well done, everybody. See you next year. Have a rest. See you all at Halloween.
Okay. Bye-bye now.
Bye.